Chapter 567. On the blue sea, several seagulls were flying in the sky. On the surface of the sea, a huge ship was sailing through the wind and waves. Sulen was wearing a pirate captain's three-brimmed hat. He held a telescope in one hand and hugged Chris in the other. He was commanding the ship in high spirits. On the calm surface of the sea, the ship's sailing speed had reached 35 knots. If he used a skill, the speed could easily reach 50 knots. In this era, even magic ships couldn't reach such a high speed. Sulen even tried the weapons on the magic ship. Those ballistae could easily shoot 500 meters away. Under the operation of the animated ropes, they could shoot 6 times per minute. After activating rapid fire, the firing rate could be doubled, reaching an astonishing 12 bolts per minute. This magic ship had a total of 24 ballistae, which could still shoot 288 bolts per minute. Such a high firing rate could completely turn a ship into a hedgehog. Compared to the bolts, the flamethrower of the Red Dragon's Fury was more powerful. The range of the flamethrower was only 50 meters, but the surface area of the flamethrower was 1,500 square meters. Sulen tested it on an ordinary ship. In less than 10 minutes, the flamethrower completely ignited the entire ship. Moreover, the flame of the Red Dragon's Fury could burn on the surface of the sea. When it burned, it would release poisonous smoke. Its lethality was very strong. After speeding on the surface of the sea for a while, Sulen let the ship slow down. The entire magic ship didn't need sailors to operate it at all. Those animated ropes could complete all kinds of movements. Following Sulen's order, the magic ship suddenly shook slightly. Then the deck of the ship began to move. An invisible force appeared around the ship. The surrounding seawater began to enter the ship. The entire magic ship quickly sank to the bottom of the sea. In less than a minute, the ship disappeared from the surface of the sea. On the bottom of the sea, Sulen looked around. The bottom of the sea wasn't dark. A layer of light blue energy shield wrapped around the entire ship. The seawater was separated from the ship, and the surroundings exuded a layer of gloomy luster. From the magic ship, one could clearly see the surrounding seabed. In addition to separating the seawater, the energy layer around the ship also had a concealment function. From the outside, there was nothing in the seawater. The speed of the magic ship at the bottom of the sea was slower than on the surface, but it was more than enough for a sneak attack. At this moment, he was completely surrounded by light blue seawater. It was as if he was in a crystal palace. It was very beautiful. Sulen was overwhelmed with excitement. He pulled Chris here to play a game of 2, and then let the boat float. After playing in the sea for almost a day, Sulen tested all the abilities of the magic ship, and then sailed the ship back. The only regret he had was that there was not even a single pirate ship in the surrounding sea, let alone a merchant ship. This made his idea of fighting a naval battle completely fail. After returning to the deepwater port, Sulen and Chris returned to the land. As for the magic ship, it directly sank to the bottom of the sea and slept. It would only wake up again when Sulen or Hathaway summoned it. This kind of sleep was also a way for it to accumulate energy. The magic ship was not equipped with an energy source like the elemental pool. After all, it would cost too much to move the elemental pool onto the ship, and it would be easily damaged. Therefore, Hathaway used another method, similar to a battery. The magic ship had a special conversion array that could absorb the energy in the sea, convert it into elemental energy, and store it. Usually, it would not consume energy when traveling normally. It would only consume energy when casting spells or in a state of battle. Under normal circumstances, the ship could fight for about 2 days when it was full of energy. When they arrived at Deepwater City, the whole city was in full swing construction. The shipyard on the island in the middle of the Red Sand River had been completed. This shipyard covered an area of 30,000 square meters and had a total of 6 docks. The shipyards of this era had not formed the kind of closed docks yet. Many of them were directly built by digging a pit. Sulen made a lot of improvements when the shipyard was built. The largest dock in this shipyard was 70 meters long, and it could build a merchant ship with a displacement of up to 2,000 tons. This kind of ship had a large cargo capacity and could carry a lot of food and water for long-distance voyages. It would take about a month to sail from the eastern continent to Deepwater City. If they went to a farther city, it would take even longer. There were not many islands along the way from here to the eastern continent, so it was necessary to prepare enough food and water. This kind of merchant ship with a displacement of 2,000 tons could transport 4 or 5 times more goods than ordinary sailing ships. The smallest of the 6 docks in the shipyard was only 30 meters long. It could build small merchant ships. In addition to these merchant ships, warships could also be built here. In fact, the difference between merchant ships and warships in this era was not too big. Many pirates drove modified armed merchant ships. There were often conflicts between pirates and navies. The navies could not rely on their ships to gain an absolute advantage. Sometimes, pirates would take the initiative to attack the navies. The biggest difference between a merchant ship and a warship was the shape of the ship. In order to transport more goods, a merchant ship would increase its width when it was built. On the other hand, a warship was different. In order to pursue the enemy at a faster speed, a warship was generally built to be more slender. Such warships were usually faster than merchant ships, but the armed merchant ships modified by the pirates were not slower than the warships. Another difference was that the wood used for warships was teak or other high-grade wood, which was rarely used by merchant ships. Warships made of wood such as teak were usually more sturdy. In naval battles in this era, rams were often used. Rams could be said to be the most powerful means of attack in this era, other than magic ships. Many times, a high-speed ship could rely on rams to directly break another ship in half. If the wood used for such a violent collision was not up to standard, it was likely to cause serious damage to the warship. The pirates' favorite way to fight was to jump ship. This kind of battle allowed them to better preserve their goods and ships. It was said that the pirates in the southern seas had used this method to seize many warships. Compared to the navy, pirates were even more insane. Under normal circumstances, pirates preferred to use human wave tactics. Often, there would be dozens or even hundreds of pirates on a pirate ship. Chapter 568. The shipyard on River Heart Island was currently building a warship and an armed merchant ship. The merchant ship was progressing faster. Most of the craftsmen were from northern town. They had only built inland watercraft before and had never built a ship before. In order to build the ship, Sulen specially hired some old craftsmen from the southern sea at a high price to guide them. Just like that, the framework of the shipyard was set up. After the 2 ships were completed, Sulen planned to form an exploration caravan to explore the sea route in the east. The trade route did not have to be developed after Deepwater City was built. In fact, as long as the port was completed, they could explore the trade route. While building, they could conduct trade. Sulen strolled around River Heart Island. When he went to eat, he bumped into sailors who had just completed their sea training. These sailors all looked pale, their hair was messy, and their bodies were filled with a sour smell. It was obvious that these sailors had been tortured by Barbossa on the sea. Sulen had no objections to this at all. After all, he did not know how to train a navy. Barbossa was the only one in the entire Northwind Dukedom who knew how to train pirates. However, the definition of a navy and a pirate in this era was not so accurate. If they wore military uniforms and raised military flags, they were a navy. If they took off their uniforms and raised other flags, they were pirates. Now, almost half of the active pirates in the Southern Sea had an official background. Although the 3 southern countries had formed an alliance, they were always dirty in private. The 3 countries had always been competing, but they could not fall out with each other. Therefore, they had obtained a privateer license. With this license, pirates could rob merchant ships legally. Of course, privateers could not rob their own country's ships. The first country to issue a privateer license was the Tudor Kingdom. Originally, the Tudor Kingdom was far behind the Liberia Kingdom and the Netherlands Kingdom in terms of maritime trade. However, with the privateer license, the kingdom's maritime power developed rapidly and was now not inferior to the other two countries. The privateer license stipulated that half of the looted wealth had to be paid to the king. This way, the Tudor Kingdom did not have to spend a single cent of military expenditure to obtain a large number of troops and large amounts of money. After seeing this situation, the Liberia Kingdom and the Netherlands Kingdom also began to issue privateer licenses. In the end, pirate activities in the Southern Sea became rampant. If Deepwater City were to engage in maritime trade and open up trade routes, it wouldn't be long before these pirates would rush over like sharks smelling blood. In order to cope with the next challenge, Deepwater City's navy must be established as soon as possible. Of course, in the early stage, in order to help the weak navy of Deepwater City, Sulan would leave the Raging Dragon here to help them fight. Northern Wastelands, Northwind Tower. The astrology platform was filled with a powerful magic power. Hathaway's body had gathered a frightening amount of energy. A decaying, destructive, and crazy energy was constantly being extracted from the divinity crystal. This powerful negative energy could easily turn a person into a demon who would not shrink from any evil. The slightest carelessness would interfere with Hathaway's mind. Only after the divinity had been purified could she absorb it without any side effects. Beside Hathaway, a torrent of elemental energy was constantly purifying this evil energy. After about half an hour, the energy extracted from the divinity crystal in front of her was finally purified and restored to its original golden brilliance. Then the surrounding elemental energy slowly dissipated. Hathaway gently waved her hand, and the golden divinity began to integrate into her body. The golden energy turned into strands of silk and rushed into Hathaway's body. Because Hathaway was not a god, she could only slowly integrate the divinity. It was said that the gods could directly integrate the divinity into their bodies, unlike humans who integrated it bit by bit. After feeling the divinity integrate into her body, Hathaway's soul became stronger. After all the divinity in front of her had integrated into her body, her soul felt full. Hathaway then slowly dispersed the magic power around her body. Although the divinity had been cleansed, Hathaway's emotions were still affected during this period. As the divinity was stripped away, the faint golden energy in this part of the abomination's soul began to decrease. Hathaway did not absorb this soul energy. Although the quality of the abomination's soul energy was very high, the negative emotions in this soul were also very strong. Absorbing this energy was not worth the loss to Hathaway. With a snap of her fingers, Hathaway sealed the remaining soul energy. After extracting the divinity, the abomination's soul energy was an advanced legendary crystal. Hathaway and Sulan were very interested in the guardian statue in the ruins of the Wizard Tower. They planned to use the abomination's soul crystal to make one. Milky Way, check the pollution index on my body and soul. After absorbing the divinity of the abomination's divinity, Hathaway felt her body and soul and then said to the tower genie. Detecting the pollution index. Detection complete. A blue energy swept across Hathaway's body. The current pollution index on the Tower Master's body is 11.5%. Please take note, Tower Master. If the pollution index is too high, it will affect your magic power control and your promotion will also be affected. The chances of you losing control of your mind will increase. Please try not to take any potions during this period. Hathaway rubbed her head. She did not have a good way to clean up the pollution index on her body. She could only purify it bit by bit. The pollution caused by the ancient arcanists was even more serious. At that time, many places in the main material plane were seriously polluted. Normal life could not survive at all. This was also one of the fuses that led to the war between the gods and the Arcane Kingdom. The ancient arcanists later also studied ways to clean up the pollution. The results were so-so. Some seriously polluted areas were still uninhabitable. In this aspect, the Druids were better at cleaning up. The wisdom tree planted in Sullen's secret realm also had a purifying effect. Hathaway was going to live with the wisdom tree for a while. The purifying ability of the wisdom tree was very important to Sulen and the others. In addition to Hathaway, Alex and Karina had also fused with divinity once. Chris had just fused with the power of the Baler and had not fully mastered it, so she could not fuse with divinity for the time being. Phyllis was not strong enough and her soul power was not strong enough. If she forcibly fused with divinity, her mind would be affected by the divinity, so she did not fuse with it for the time being. Fusing with divinity required at least the strength of Tier 4. Of course, if it was divinity given by other divine creatures, there was no such threshold, but very few divine creatures would do so. Chapter 569. North Wind Tower, Astrology Platform. With a flash of a teleportation spell, Sullen's figure appeared in the tower. Soon, the little maid Angela appeared. When she saw Sulen, she bowed slightly. "Master, you're back." Sulen smiled and rubbed her little head. "You're here today. Where's Hathaway?" The half-elf maid Angela smiled. Sister Hathaway went to stay at the wisdom tree for a few days. She said that the pollution in her body was a bit high, so she went to purify it. Okay. Sulen nodded. He knew that Hathaway had just fused with the divinity. Who's at the wisdom tree now? Sister Hathaway, Sister Alex, Sister Karina, and Sister Xanthi. Sister Chris doesn't like to go to the wisdom tree, so she rarely goes there, Angela said. Chris was a succubus, a type of demon. She was a legendary demon and was somewhat resistant to natural divine power. If she was a normal demon, she wouldn't even go near the wisdom tree. Go prepare lunch. I'll go take a look at the mystery realm first. After Sulen ordered, he went straight to the mystery realm. It had only been half a month since he left the mystery realm. As soon as he arrived, he could feel the natural aura around him. The entire mystery realm was full of vitality. When he arrived at the botanical garden, it had become a sea of flowers. Colorful flowers bloomed around him. Unbelievable. These flowers should bloom at different times. Why are they blooming at the same time? Sulen looked around in surprise. For example, the magic violet bloomed in May. The magic datura bloomed in August to October. The tulips bloomed in April. Now, these flowers were all blooming. Before he could figure out why, Xanthi noticed him and jogged over. Sulen, you're back. Xanthi, what's with these flowers? Sulen pointed at the sea of flowers. This is one of Grandpa Tree's abilities. Within the range of its domain, all the flowers will bloom, Xanthi explained with a smile. All of them? Won't it affect these plants? Sulen asked in surprise. They won't. These plants will be the same as normal plants. They won't be affected. Sulen nodded. That's good. Did you plant all these flowers? That's right. I asked elder sister Alex for these. Her elder sister winged people helped me collect the seeds. Then, we planted them together. Look, this is a devil's snare, this is a Japanese rose, and this is a lilac. There are some over there that haven't been planted yet. Sandy pulled Sulen and said excitedly. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, it's like a dream garden. Sulen rubbed Sandy's head. By the way, come with me. Xanthi seemed to have thought of something all of a sudden. She pulled Sulen and ran in another direction. Soon, the two of them arrived at the empty space behind the sea of flowers. There were more than 10 square wooden boxes placed neatly on the empty space. There were also bees the size of a thumb flying around them. This is Su Len looked at the beehives in front of him in surprise. Hee, what do you think? These are my bees. Sandy said proudly. These are the amethyst bees that I asked elder sister Karina to catch for me. The amethyst bee was a very poisonous bee. An ordinary amethyst bee was the size of an adult's thumb. Its sting was very painful. There was also poison on it that could cause paralysis and weakness. In the wild, even the dire bear wouldn't dare to steal the honey of the amethyst bees. These amethyst bees were very dangerous. The challenge level of a swarm of amethyst bees in the wild was around level 11. Without professional means and tools, even a grand knight would have to take a detour if they encountered a swarm of amethyst bees. If they were surrounded by the amethyst bees, they wouldn't be able to withstand it. These bees were very dangerous, but the honey of the amethyst bees was very good. The taste of the amethyst honey was sweet, sweeter than cane sugar. Also, the amethyst honey had a special effect. It could be used to detoxify, make magic potions, and of course, be consumed directly. The biggest effect of the amethyst honey was to slow down aging. The amethyst honey's price was usually 500 kinnar per 100 milliliters. Of course, this price was basically priceless. There was very little amethyst honey on the market. Basically, it would be bought as soon as it appeared. Only a few auction houses would sell it, but the price would be much higher than 500 kinnar. The effect of the amethyst honey was not constant. It was different from the flower honey collected by the amethyst bees. Normal flowers were naturally not as good as the flowers of magic plants. The amethyst bees in the wild mostly collected normal flowers. Only a part of it was from magic plants. However, the amethyst bees in front of Sullen's eyes were all from magic plants, so the effect was naturally stronger. Since the amethyst honey was so effective, of course, many people wanted to domesticate it. However, the amethyst bees were wild and hard to tame. Only a few wizard organizations had domesticated a few. Most of the time, they would set aside an area to breed the amethyst bees, and then forcibly collect the honey. You tamed these amethyst bees? Su Len asked as he looked at the amethyst bees flying around. Yeah, Su Len, look, these amethyst bees are very obedient. Sandy giggled, and then her body began to dance like a butterfly. The amethyst bees around her also began to dance with her. All the amethyst bees were obediently dancing with Sandy's fingers. This is your ability? Su Len looked at Sandy with surprise. Yeah, what do you think? Am I powerful? The little girl said with a proud face. Her expression was almost saying, praise me, praise me, praise me. Sandy, you're so powerful. Su Len nodded. Hee, Sister Alex, Sister Karina, and Sister Hathaway taught me this, Sandy giggled. They taught me how to control my own power, and then I learned how to tame these amethyst bees. By the way, Su Len, here's some amethyst royal jelly. I saved a jar for you. Sandy suddenly remembered something, and then she pulled Su Len to a beehive. She carefully opened the beehive, and an amethyst bee the size of an adult's fist was lying in the beehive, sucking on the honey. Sandy gently pointed her finger, and a strange power spread out from her body. She then took out a glass bottle and carefully took out the honey from the beehive. When the glass bottle was full, she closed the beehive. This is the amethyst queen bee's royal jelly. Because it's the amethyst queen bee's food, you can't take too much. If you want more, you'll have to wait until next month. Sandy then handed the glass bottle full of amethyst royal jelly to Su Len. Chapter 570. Sandy summoned water elements to wash her hands, and then stretched out her white and tender hand to dip some royal jelly from the glass jar and handed it to Su Len. She said with a sweet smile, fresh royal jelly. Others like it very much. Su Len, would you like to have a taste? Looking at Sandy's white and tender hands and her expectant look, Su Len would not refuse her kindness. He licked the royal jelly on her fingers. The moment his tongue touched it, he tasted a hint of sweetness with a hint of sourness and floral fragrance. It was not as spicy as other royal jellies, so it tasted good. Seeing Sulan licking her fingers directly, Sandy blushed slightly. However, she recovered soon. How's the taste? Do you like it? Great royal jelly. Sulan gave a thumbs up and said. Seeing Sulan's expression, Sandy also became happy. She said proudly, the amethyst bees I cultivated and the amethyst bees' honey and royal jelly are the best. Oh, come and have a taste of the honey. Compared with royal jelly, honey tastes better. Sandy raised her head proudly and said, patting her chest. As she spoke, Sandy took out a jar of purple crystal honey from somewhere as if she was performing a magic trick. Sulan took over the jar and smelled it. There was a faint floral fragrance with a hint of sweetness, which was very attractive. He dipped his finger into the jar and put it into his mouth. A mellow floral fragrance with sweetness instantly filled his mouth. It was a feeling that made people satisfied from the bottom of their hearts. Sulan couldn't help but narrow his eyes and savor the taste. He could guarantee that this was definitely the best honey he had ever tasted since his previous life. The sweet honey had a hint of floral fragrance and a long aftertaste, which made people feel that they were in a sea of flowers. Even if other effects of the honey were ignored, it was the best honey only in terms of taste. How is it? Is it delicious? Sandy looked at Sulan expectantly. It made me feel the taste of nature. It gave me a sense of happiness and satisfaction. It was great. Sulan said. Hee, as long as you like it. I spent a lot of time getting these amethyst wasps to collect different flowers and make this honey according to a special ratio, Sandy said proudly. Sulan had a whole new level of respect for Sandy. Originally, he just wanted to raise a mascot. He didn't expect that Sandy would bring him a surprise. Thank you for your hard work. The effect of royal jelly was better than honey. It was a very rare and precious medicinal material. Even if it was not mixed into a magic potion, it could slowly strengthen a person's physique and increase their lifespan through daily consumption. At the same time, it could speed up the effect of meditation and slow down aging. This was a hot commodity for most magi. Unfortunately, the production rate was even lower than the amethyst honey. Basically, it was digested as soon as it was produced, and very rarely would it be sold. Sulan used appraisal on the 2 jars in his hands, and a large amount of data appeared before his eyes. Item name, purple crystal honey. Quality, excellent. Description, honey carefully brewed by the amethyst wasps using the pollen of dozens of magical plants. It tastes sweet and has the effect of improving physique, slowing down aging, detoxifying, and increasing poison resistance. It's a rare honey. Amethyst honey, sweet and delicious plus 42, pleasant fragrance plus 37, detoxifying plus 34, aging plus 25, energy recovery plus 40, mana recovery plus 35. Note, long-term consumption will give you a weak poison resistance, more than 1 liter must be consumed continuously. Item name, amethyst royal jelly. Quality, excellent. Description, liquid secreted by the young amethyst wasps from various flowers collected by the young amethyst wasps. It is the food for the queen bee and also the food for the larvae. It has the effect of strengthening physique, slowing down aging, increasing lifespan, enhancing meditation, and many other effects. Amethyst royal jelly, strengthening physique plus 30, maximum 3 points of physique per person. Maximum physique is 35. More than 300 milliliters must be consumed continuously, rapid growth plus 26, life increase plus 35, aging plus 35, permanent youth plus 35, energy recovery plus 50, mana recovery plus 45, meditation efficiency plus 30. Looking at the attributes of the amethyst honey and the amethyst royal jelly, the quality was not surprising. The price of this quality was directly doubled, and everyone was fighting over it. How much honey is produced? Sulen asked. Xanthi's small white hand supported her head. She thought for a while and said, there are a total of 10 amethyst wasps here. The production of honey is 120 liters per month. The royal jelly is less, only 30 liters. Of course, the number of amethyst wasps here has not reached saturation yet. If there is a need, we can continue to increase it. Looks like Xanthi is also a little rich lady, Sulen said with a smile. Let's go. Your sisters must be waiting anxiously. Sulen and Xanthi came to the center of the Sea of Flowers. In the middle of the Sea of Flowers was a 50-meter-tall tree. This tree was naturally the Wisdom Ancient Tree. As soon as he came here, the aura of nature around him became even stronger. In this environment, he also felt as if his body had been purified. The giant ancient tree was lush and green. It was like a giant umbrella. In the open space under the tree, there were a dozen treehouses of different shapes. As soon as Sulen appeared, a white figure rushed over. Shoo! The loud neigh of a horse sounded. An extraordinary horse appeared beside Sulen. It was his Pegasus. It lowered its head and rubbed against Sulen's body. Sulen reached out and rubbed the mane of the horse. He smiled and said, "You've gained a lot of weight recently." The Pegasus snorted at Sulen and excitedly circled around Sulen and Xanthi. The Pegasus had been living a much more comfortable life recently. It ran around happily every day. After Sulen brought it to the nature oak, it treated this place as its home. Sulen, you're here. Alex greeted Sulen. Come and try the afternoon tea that Sister Hathaway made. It's delicious. Hathaway and Karina smiled at him. At this time, they were sitting under the wisdom tree and chatting. There was a tea set on the coffee table next to them, and there were some cream biscuits and fruits on each of their seats. It was obvious that they were having a gathering here. Hathaway's afternoon tea. I have to try it, Sulen said as he sat down on the empty seat next to him. He picked up a delicate teacup and poured a cup of black tea. The black tea in northern town was different from the black tea popular in Florence. There were no milk, sugar, or other ingredients in the black tea. It was just boiled water, and Hathaway added some mint leaves to taste. This kind of black tea was more in line with Sulen's habits. Are you used to living here? Sulen put down the teacup and asked. Hathaway stretched lazily, her loose wizard robe outlining an astonishing curve. It's too comfortable, too comfortable. It's nice to stay here for a few days every month to relax, but staying here for a long time will make me lose my drive. You're too self-disciplined. Sulen shook his head and said helplessly. Self-discipline is the only way I can go further on the path of arcana. Hathaway smiled. But other than the comfort, the pollution index here is very good. I've only stayed here for a few days, and the pollution index on me has already decreased by half. It'll all be gone in 3 days at most. Sulen looked at Alex and said, What do you think, Alex? It's great. I think this place can help me purify my bloodline, Alex said excitedly. I'm already at the edge of becoming a legendary wizard. I think I can become a legendary wizard if I have more time. Alex, I think you should hurry up and increase your wizard rank. Legendary wizards are powerful, but your wizard rank is still too low, Hathaway suddenly reminded. The power of your bloodline has a source. You can use it to increase your strength, but it's best not to rely on it too much. I know, Sister Hathaway. Alex nodded. She used to be a dedicated wizard, and her wizard rank was not that high. After listening to Hathaway's advice, she decided to focus on becoming a wizard. Alright, you guys can think about it yourselves, but I'll support you in learning all kinds of knowledge about wizards. It'll be very beneficial for you guys. Su Luan said to them, although the knowledge of wizards is very boring, and the spell models are a headache to look at, the benefits are beyond your imagination. All right, I will. Alex slumped on the table like a deflated balloon. There's one more thing I want to ask you guys. Sulen put a cream biscuit in his mouth and swallowed it after a few chews. What is it? Hathaway asked strangely. The furious dragon is ready to go. I'm planning to build a fleet to go to the eastern continent. Who wants to go with me? Sulen said. The eastern continent? I want to take a look. I've only heard a lot about the eastern continent, and now I have a chance. Hathaway's eyes lit up when she heard Sulen was planning to go to the eastern continent. She was very interested in the idea. Sulen nodded, sure, we'll go together. He then looked at Alex and the others. I'm not going. A lot of kids have reached the boundary of evolution. I can't leave. Alex shook his head regretfully. Ever since they started living in the eagle's nest, some of the harpies had evolved into winged people every year. The evolution of the eagle's nest bloodline had been constantly changing the harpies. Sulen heard from Alex that the evolution of the harpies' bloodline had sped up after they suppressed their biological instincts. The winged people in Northern Town City had grown from 20 to 60. Perhaps in a few hundred years, the winged people would become a new race on the continent. Sulen was looking forward to this race. The Air Force in Northern Town City would be even more powerful. Chapter 571. In the Northern Wilderness. When Su Luan returned here again, the summer was gradually coming to an end. The summer in the Northern Wilderness was not hot. Perhaps because it was close to the north, it was far less hot than the south. The wheat planted outside the city had turned yellow in a large area. It was a golden scene outside the city of North Town. Needless to say, it was another good harvest. Sulen went to the city hall first to check how the work was going. It was almost time for the serfs to gain the status of free people. It was a very important day for the city. More than 90% of the residents in the city were serfs. Last year, when the first batch of serfs reached the end of their service, they gained the status of commoners. They owned land and houses and became real owners of property. It was a great stimulation for the other serfs. Therefore, in the following year, those serfs burst out with amazing enthusiasm. It was also on that day that Sullen's promise was not an empty lie. In order to gain a better life, those serfs burst out with amazing enthusiasm. Amazing changes had taken place in the city in the past year. The most obvious change was the farmland. Last year, there were 500,000 mu of farmland outside the city. However, only 1 year later, there were 800,000 mu of farmland outside the city. That was an extra 300,000 mu of farmland. It took them 4 or 5 years to cultivate the first 500,000 mu of farmland. Although there was a lack of manpower in the beginning and a large amount of manpower was used to build the city, it was still an amazing achievement to cultivate 300,000 mu of farmland in just 1 year. Last year, about 1,000 serfs were granted civilian status. At that time, they were granted more than 6,000 acres of land and houses. This year, the number of serfs increased by more than 10,000. Moreover, because they worked hard, their labor points were much higher than the previous batch of serfs who were freed. According to the calculation of the officials in the city hall, each serf could exchange for 8 mu of land. Therefore, the city needed to provide at least 80,000 mu of land. Of course, this land was not cultivated. Some of it had been cultivated, and some of it had not yet been. This way, the land could be quickly increased. This time, Sulen took out 40,000 mu of cultivated land and another 40,000 mu of barren land for them. Your Majesty. This is the list of the freed serfs and the land they will be given. A rather beautiful and mature female official smiled at Sulen and handed a document to Sulen. These female officials were actually the family members of the nobles who had been exiled to Northern Town. There were a lot of nobles who had been exiled here. Most of them were lazy. It could be said that 70% of them were rice worms. Sulen would not feed them and directly throw them to the farm. As for those who were capable, they were sent to work in various places. Compared to the men, many of the noblewomen were doing much better. They quickly adapted to the rules of Northgard City. Most of the noblewomen were literate and had received a certain degree of education. These women were assigned to various positions in Northwind Principality, such as female officials, clerks, and archivists. So far, they were doing quite well. Most of the work has been completed. There's still a small part left to check. Sulen flipped through the list and asked, "Where are the farmlands that will be given to them?" "It's all here," the female official said as she took out a map. Suluan flipped through the map and found that all the farmlands around the northern town were marked, including the locations of all kinds of canals, water wheels, and wells. Sulen was checking to see if anyone was playing tricks on the land distribution this time. Sulen only said to distribute the land, but did not say whether it would be high-grade or low-grade farmlands. The difference was huge. If it was high-grade farmlands, not only would they have a higher yield after planting, but they would also have access to water nearby. The yield would be 2 to 3 times higher than the newly cultivated farmlands. The price of this kind of superior farmland was far higher than that of newly cultivated farmland. Who knew what kind of tricks those officials would play? Although these officials would go to prison every year for political training, there was no one who could be 100% sure about this kind of thing. In fact, this was a loophole that Sulen purposely left. He was using this method to fish and see if any of the officials would take the bait. As expected, after checking for a while, Sulen quickly found some high-grade farmlands that had been given out. He then compared them with the list. Sulen easily found out who it was. After discovering the problem, Sulen did not say anything. Instead, he directly notified the genie guards and asked them to continue the investigation. Looking at the genie guards who were a little panicked, Sulen just threw the information to them. They naturally knew how to deal with it. If they could not even do this well, Sulen would have to consider replacing them. After dealing with the matter, Sulen left the city hall. Northern Town was developing a little fast. Many functions of the departments had not been perfected yet. This time, he was here to knock on the officials of Northern Town. Back in the inner city, Suluan's followers lived in the entire inner city. There were also several factories in the northern city, where outsiders would be discovered as soon as they entered. When Suluan arrived, a large number of workers were busy, and some people were giving orders. After walking in, what appeared in front of him was a square box. These were the goods that were going to be shipped to Deepwater City. Sulen was going to open up a new route, so naturally, he had to bring the goods. This time, he prepared various specialties of Northern Town. Paper, sugar, some magic potions and magic items. There was also some wine, but not much. The main reason was the difference in diet between the East and the West. Sulen did not know if rum and vodka were suitable for the Eastern continent. After a few years of development, Northern Town had started to sell military supplies in addition to producing these things. For example, warhorses and weapons. With the centaurs, the warhorses produced in Northern Town were very popular in the human kingdoms. The warhorses produced here were some of the best in the entire Western continent. As for the weapons, the quality of Northern Town's weapons had skyrocketed after the dwarven blacksmiths were hired. Not only were they durable, but they were also sharp and tough. The price was not too high either. Some of the high-quality weapons were even enchanted. In this era, the weapons produced by the dwarves were equivalent to the high-end weapons produced by the big kingdoms in his previous life. As for the enchanted weapons, they were equivalent to the most advanced weapons, such as the Dong Feng Express and the F-22. The profits of the arms trade were very high. After all, how could the arms trade not make money? The countries in the south were very strict about the arms trade. Normal military weapons were restricted because of the rampant pirates. Many nobles were worried that the pirates would get their hands on weapons that were too good. As for the enchanted weapons, it was even more difficult. One or two of these weapons were fine, but Northern Town had no such restrictions. After all, these weapons were not used in the Northwind Principality or the Kingdom of Florence. Of course, Northern Town had strict restrictions on the sale of weapons locally. After all, Northern Town was located in the northern wasteland. There were too many goblins, orcs, and gnolls around. If these weapons fell into the hands of the goblins, it would be a threat to Northern Town. Sulan nodded after checking the goods again. Since they had the furious dragon with them, they could carry more goods. Therefore, they had to prepare all kinds of supplies. Hathaway was also here. She was also preparing the goods for the trade. At the same time, she was also recording the things she wanted to buy. Many of them were unique to the Eastern continent. She was planning to buy them in bulk. It would be great if we had a magic airship. Airship? You have the technology? Sulan raised his eyebrows. I'm missing some key information, Hathaway shrugged. The planet Sulan and the others were on was huge. It was many times the size of Earth. The distance between the Eastern continent and the Western continent was relatively close, but the Western continent was very far away from the other continents. It would take almost a year for them to travel back and forth with ships. It was also difficult to travel in the endless ocean with ships alone. In the shallow seas, there were not many monsters. However, in the deep seas, there were countless sea monsters. Many of these sea monsters were as strong as dragons. If an ordinary ship encountered these sea monsters, the ship would be destroyed. Hence, communication between these continents was usually done through magic airships or long-distance teleportation arrays. Long-distance teleportation circles could not transport large amounts of goods, so airships were the main trade tool between the continents. These magic airships were owned by a few large wizard organizations. They had completely monopolized the trade between the continents. They had made a lot of money by relying on these airships. Airships are not that difficult. You just need to cast a levitation spell or a space expansion spell. However, you still need to deal with the defensive rune circle and energy source, Hathaway explained. Another thing was the means of attack. Although airships could avoid the monsters in the ocean, they would sometimes encounter some monsters in the sky. Therefore, counterattacks were indispensable. Another thing was the energy source. An airship needed to consume a large amount of energy. Elemental pools could not be made on the airship. Therefore, it was crucial to make an energy source for the airship. In fact, airship technology first appeared in the early days of the Arcane Empire. It was phased out in the later days of the Arcane Empire. However, there were many gaps in the wizard civilization. Many of the skill trees lacked key points. It could not be helped. Although airship technology was phased out in the era of the Arcane Empire, the technology was still very good. It was cheap and cost-effective. Otherwise, the Arcane Empire would not have used it for so long. Chapter 572. Kingdom of Florence, City of San Filto. Phyllis was awakened by a ray of sunlight at dawn. She first opened her eyes, and then felt a sense of powerlessness coming from the corpse. The battle last night lasted until late at night. Even if she had awakened the dragon bloodline, she still could not bear it. The power of the plasma cannon was too strong. Fighting alone, she quickly threw away her armor and completely gave up resistance. Sulan seemed to feel something and woke up from his sleep. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Phyllis's flawless jade-like body seem to be glowing under the morning light. She looked lazy and sleepy, and there was still a touch of last night's lust between her eyebrows. After a night of release, Sulan stood up straight. However, considering Phyllis's ability to bear it, Sulan could only let her go for now. The velvet bed was very soft. Su Len stretched and got up from the bed. The maids outside the door seemed to have heard the movement inside. Soon, two pretty maids came in with clothes. After seeing Su Len's body, the two pretty faces blushed, but they still helped Su Len put on his clothes respectfully. The temperature in the room was suitable. Hathaway had set up a large rune circle around the entire palace. Not only could it protect the palace, but it could also adjust the temperature of the palace area. Su Len stretched, then yawned, and let the maids behind him put on his clothes one by one. The queen needs to continue to rest. You will guard the door later. Don't let anyone disturb her. By the way, remember to prepare breakfast for her. After a simple wash, Su Len ordered the two maids beside him. After giving the order, Su Len went to the dining room to have a simple breakfast. As the king of the Kingdom of Florence, he rarely lived in this kingdom. Although the Kingdom of Florence had been purged several times by Su Len, and a large number of nobles had been eliminated, there were still many rotten rules here, and there was a lot of resistance to reform. After all, these nobles had been living on this land for thousands of years. It was unrealistic to get rid of them all. Besides, there were gods in this world. If these nobles were forced into a corner and turned to the temple, Su Len's efforts would be in vain. After thousands of years of struggle, the human nobles finally reached a relative tacit understanding with the temple. That was, the temple would not interfere in the internal affairs of the country. In their words, the king belonged to the king, and the gods belonged to the gods. The king represented secular rights, while the gods retained the right to worship. However, if someone really wanted to uproot their roots, these nobles would not just sit there and do nothing. They would definitely go to the temple, and the temple would have an excuse to intervene in their internal affairs. At that time, there would be a lot of trouble. Su Len didn't have the power to suppress the shrine, but the shrine couldn't deal with Su Len either. In the end, they could only compromise, so Su Len didn't care much about the Kingdom of Florence. He only made requirements for the slums, the dark side of the city, and the appearance of the city. He also restricted the officials in power, and at the same time, reformed the tax collection. The interests of the nobles were also affected. After a series of attacks and exiles by Su Len, the nobles who refused to comply were already dead. The rest of the nobles could only hold their noses and accept it. Of course, this was also because these losses were within the acceptable range of those nobles. In the palace, Su Len was wearing a hunting suit and was about to go for a walk in the city. At this time, he suddenly saw the captain of the guards rushing over. Su Len frowned slightly and asked, "What happened?" The captain bowed slightly and replied, "Your Majesty, a group of refugees just arrived outside the city." The city hall asked if they should be stopped outside the city. Refugees? Su Len was a little surprised. It was almost the autumn harvest. Why would there be refugees at this time? Ask the city hall to send people to settle all the refugees outside the city. Although he didn't know the specific situation of these refugees, Su Len quickly issued an order, deal with them according to the refugee resettlement regulations. Yes. The captain said respectfully, then bowed and took 2 steps back to prepare to leave. Wait, go and find out where these refugees came from, Su Len suddenly said. Yes, Your Majesty. The captain turned and left. Soon, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Then, a burly man with a scar on his face walked in. He obviously had the blood of a barbarian. He was wearing a fine iron armor and didn't carry any weapons. When he saw Su Len, he immediately bowed and said, "Your Majesty, you were looking for me?" "A group of refugees outside the city. Bring some people to maintain order. Let the refugees clean themselves and receive food according to the rules. Remember to kill anyone who dares to cause trouble and rob the food," Su Len said without raising his head. "Yes, Your Majesty." The burly man bowed slightly, then turned and left. There was an effective way to deal with refugees in the northern city. First, the refugees would be isolated, disinfected, and cleaned. Then, they would be given food. When the food was distributed, all kinds of information about the refugees would be recorded and organized into a book. Then, the refugees would be allocated houses according to the book. Sulen wouldn't directly take care of these refugees. The most common way was to provide them with relief. This way, not only could the refugees find something to do, but they could also be used to build some infrastructure. When the refugees left, they would also be paid. It was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. At noon, the captain of the guards hurried over to report that the refugees had been settled. Your Majesty. Everything is settled? Where did these refugees come from? Sulen asked directly. I've asked clearly. They came from the city of Wallachia in the north. Their city was attacked by a giant dragon. The dragon stole the treasures in the city and left. However, a group of barbarians from the north came and attacked the city. Because the city had just been attacked by the giant dragon, the barbarians easily took over the city. Barbarians from the north? Sulen immediately turned around and frowned slightly. A trace of anger appeared in his eyes. The barbarians from the north actually dared to attack my city. What are the surrounding nobles doing? Sulen didn't strip the nobles of their military power at the northern border. These nobles who were responsible for the invasion of the north had a strong military force. The barbarians who didn't even have metal weapons were no match for them. Even if Wallachia city was attacked, the nobles could still easily drive the barbarians out with their strength. Now that there were so many refugees in San Filto city, it was obvious that the nobles didn't do their best. Sulen naturally knew the reason for this situation. It was obvious that the nobles were unhappy that Sulen's reforms had damaged their interests. Order the First Legion to head out and kill the northern barbarians as soon as possible. We'll reclaim Wuxia city. Oh, and bring the surrounding nobles' armies along as well. Teach them a lesson, Su Luan said coldly. Yes, sir. The barbarians of the northern region were a general term that included the barbarians, the Vrykul, and other races. Because of the harsh environment and cold climate, these barbarians were usually tall and hairy. Many of them had the bloodline of the frost giants. Most of these barbarians had brain cramps. If a normal human's IQ was 12 points, then their IQ was at most 10 points. They were also stubborn and could be compared to dwarves. Because they were often cheated by southern merchants in their transactions, they were very unfriendly to the surrounding countries. Although these people were reckless, it wasn't difficult to deal with them. Sulen didn't care about the barbarians who attacked Wallachia city. He was more interested in the dragon that dared to rob the city. A dragon that was active in the north and took the initiative to rob the city. This was most likely done by the white dragon of the Pentashade. Sulen estimated that a white dragon that could easily take down a city was at least in its prime. It might even be an old white dragon. Just because white dragons were the weakest of the Pentashade didn't mean that they were easy to deal with. In fact, white dragons were weak only relative to other Pentashade dragons. They were also very powerful to humans. White dragons that had entered adulthood were already legendary creatures. White dragons of this age were not as brainless as the previous white dragons. If it was an old white dragon, it would be even stronger. Its frost dragon breath could instantly freeze a person into an ice sculpture, and then shatter them into ice shards with a gentle tap. Dragons were born with dragon's aura. Human wave tactics were ineffective against them. Many people couldn't even stand under the dragon's aura. At the same time, they had tough dragon skin and dragon scales. Ordinary weapons couldn't even break through their skin. Many people used to think that white dragons were the weakest of the Pentashade dragons and looked down on them. When they really fought, they realized that even the weakest of the Pentashade dragons was still very dangerous. In addition, the white dragon's innate ability to cast spells was not friendly to adventurers at all. 99% of the adventurers who wanted to make a name for themselves by slaying dragons were killed by the dragons like bugs. Their weapons and armor also became the collection of the dragons. Su Len was very interested in dragons. Slaying dragons not only had extraordinary significance and fame, but also represented amazing returns. Moreover, this was a white dragon that had just robbed an entire city. Other than the white dragon's treasure, the most important thing was the white dragon's body materials. From its blood, dragon meat, dragon scales, dragon horns, claws, dragon skin, and even dragon crystals, these were all precious magic materials. It was not impossible to create one or two legendary magic items from a dragon's body. There were many Euron species in the northern wastelands, but there weren't many pure-blood dragons. White dragons were also rare. They were mainly distributed in the depths of the glacial mountains and the cold islands overseas. This time, the white dragon attacked the city of Wallachia. Based on the dragon's habits, it was very likely that its nest was near the city. Dragons rarely strayed far from their nests. This white dragon had most likely just moved its nest here. Chapter 573. A white dragon that had migrated to the northern wastelands. This was good news for Su Len. If the dragon had lived in the depths of the glaciers, Su Len would have had a hard time finding it. However, if the dragon had come to the northern wastelands, it would be much easier to slay it. The problem now was that the northern wastelands was so vast with so many mountain ranges. Where could the dragon's lair be? A white dragon's hunting range was very wide. Usually, a giant dragon's hunting range would be centered around its lair. It would not be easy to find the dragon's lair in such a large area. Su Len tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table. He was thinking as he listened to the guard's explanation. Do any of the refugees know where the dragon's lair is? Su Len asked. According to the news from the refugees, the dragon is flying northeast. I think its nest should be in the northeast. The guard captain said respectfully. Northeast. Su Len closed his eyes for a moment. He opened the system map and found the location of Wallachia City. He then began to look for a suitable location for the dragon's lair on the strategic map. There were many mountain ranges to the north of Wallachia City. The Granwell mountain range was to the northeast. This mountain range was not big and was part of the Sierra de Lotus. The Ganders mountain range was to the northwest of Wallachia City. There was also the Helbo mountain range further north. If the white dragon had really flown northeast, then the Granwell mountain range was the most likely place to be the dragon's lair. Of course, it could also be the Helbo mountain range. These northern mountain ranges were basically covered in ice and snow. Normal people would not be able to get close to them at all. It would not be easy to find the exact location of the dragon's lair. The next day, the First Legion of San Filto City had finished its preparations and was ready to set off at any time. After bidding farewell to Phyllis, Su Luan led the army out of San Filto City and rushed towards Wuxia City. Wallachia City was about 700 kilometers away from San Filto City. They would have to pass by several cities along the way, so the First Legion did not need to prepare too much food. They only needed to bring some food for the journey and buy the rest from the cities. When they arrived at these cities, Su Len could clearly see the temporary residences outside the cities. These temporary residences were filled with refugees. Not all of the refugees from Wuxia City had rushed to the capital. Many of them were scattered to other cities, and only a portion of them made it to the capital. It had been at least a week since the fall of Wallachia, but Su Len had only just received the news. Su Len knew very well that there was something fishy going on. It was nothing more than the work of the nobles. Su Len had secretly made up his mind to increase the scale of the brocade guard when he returned. Before this, Su Len had always let the embroidered uniform guards develop in the southern provinces. At that time, the northern provinces did not have much resistance to Su Len, so they did not pay much attention to the northern provinces. Many northern cities did not have embroidered uniform guards. Now, it seemed that they had been too lenient on them. The embroidered uniform guards and Eagle's Nest had to be put on the agenda as soon as possible to monitor all the provinces in the north. It took 10 days for the army to travel from San Filto to Wuxia City. Nothing happened along the way. Finally, on the 10th day, Sullen's army arrived at Wuxia City. However, unlike what he had expected, the northern barbarians had already abandoned the city and left. At that moment, Wuxia City looked like a ghost town. Broken walls were everywhere in the city, and one of the city gates had collapsed. The city was in a mess, as if it had been raided by the Japanese. The city gates had been torn down, and there were a few stray dogs running around in the city. If it had not been for the words of Wuxia City on the city walls, Sulan would have thought that he had arrived at the ruins. Seeing the situation, Sulan immediately gave the order to set up camp, and then sent people to search the city. At the same time, he began to gather the refugees. At its peak, Wuxia City had a permanent population of more than 50,000 people, and was one of the largest cities in the north. The city belonged to the royal family, and was not infested by the nobles. Therefore, Sulan had to spend a lot of money to repair the city after it was destroyed. With the arrival of the army, Wuxia City began to recover. Coincidentally, Sulan was not satisfied with the city's planning, and began to make changes. While repairing the city, he sent people to gather the refugees. After Wuxia City fell, some people did not escape, but hid in the wilderness. Now that the king's army had arrived, these people began to return. Sulan also began to ask the refugees about the dragon, and where the northern barbarians had retreated. Sulan was not the kind of person who would take a beating without retaliating. He would not let the northern barbarians who had broken into his city and pillaged it. Many scouts were sent out to search. In the next few days, Sulan received a lot of information. Because the northern barbarians had taken a lot of resources with them when they retreated, they left behind a lot of traces. The scouts were able to find them easily by following the traces. The northern barbarians had brought a lot of spoils back to Gander's mountains in the northwest. What surprised Sulan even more was that the scouts had found traces of the white dragon while they were hiding. What did you say? The white dragon's lair is in Gander's mountains? Sulan looked at the scout in front of him in surprise. Yes, Your Majesty. When I was following the northern barbarians, I found the white dragon. The white dragon was hunting when it was discovered. After it was done, it brought its prey back to Gander's mountains. Sullen's expression darkened. What a cunning dragon, he cursed in his mind. There wasn't much information from the refugees. Almost all of them said that the white dragon was heading towards the northeast. However, the truth was that the white dragon's lair was in another direction. The white dragon had purposely flown northeast to mislead the others so that they would not be able to find the dragon's lair. After figuring out the situation, Sulan left the city of Valencia and headed for the Gander's mountains. This time, he was looking for the white dragon's whereabouts and killing it. With the help of the strategic map, Sulan had a clear view of his surroundings. He planned to find the white dragon's exact location first before killing it. There were a dozen mountains around Gander's mountains. There could be a white dragon on any one of them. The mountains were not very big. Some were steep, while others were as low as mounds. However, there were a few mountains that were very tall. Sulan also noticed that the environment was a little strange. There was a mountain in the south that was actually a volcano. When Sulan went to check it out, he found that it was a dormant volcano that was far from erupting. Volcanoes were very attractive to dragons. However, only red dragons like to build their lair in volcanoes. White dragons did not like this kind of environment. Sulan did not understand why a white dragon would build its lair in such a place. Sulan slowly approached the place. There was another mountain near the volcano. Sulan finally found some clues on the mountain. As soon as he arrived at the mountain, Sulan realized that something was wrong. The reason was simple. There were very few animals here. The entire mountain was very quiet. There were not many birds in the dense forest. Under normal circumstances, there should be many animals living here. Then, birds would like to build their nests here. But now, it seemed that there was nothing here. Animals were far more sensitive to auras and danger than humans. Since there were so few animals here, it could only mean one thing. There should be a terrifying creature nearby, most likely a dragon. The dragon's natural aura would drive away the animals around it. Any creature that got close to it would have to go through a test of will to not be affected. Otherwise, they would be shrouded in fear and shock. The dragon's aura would drive away other creatures near the dragon's lair. Other creatures would not dare to get close unless they were enslaved servants. There did not seem to be any animals or birds here. It was probably because the dragons flew by from time to time, scaring the animals away. At the same time, he also found the tribe of the northern barbarians. Sulan did not expect that the barbarians lived here too. After getting the information, Sulan did not rush to attack. Instead, he brought a part of his army. There were many people in the tribe. Since they dared to attack the city of Wallachia, they naturally had to pay the price. Sulan did not let the army attack when they arrived at the outskirts of the tribe. This place was not far from the dragon's lair. If a battle broke out, the white dragon would be easily alerted. If the white dragon ran away, it would be difficult to catch it. Sulan let the army lie in ambush, then prepared to go around the tribe and continue up the mountain. He planned to deal with the white dragon first. After he dealt with the dragon, the army hidden below could then attack. Just as Sulan was about to go around the tribe, he suddenly realized that the barbarians were worshipping the white dragon. Many of the barbarians had signs of dragonization. Sulan even found a few dragon descendants. The dragon must have used its power to turn the barbarians into dragon descendants. The dragon could bestow power to its followers. Generally speaking, the more dragon descendants there were, the more powerful the dragon would be. Sulan observed carefully just now. There were 3 small groups of dragon descendants in the camp. There were some that Sulan did not see, but there were probably more of them. With so many dragon descendants, this white dragon might have broken through its prime and entered old age. An old white dragon. Needless to say, it was very powerful. Moreover, an old white dragon's intelligence was not inferior to that of other dragons. Sulan needed a perfect plan before he could act. Chapter 574. Sulan hid in the bushes, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Sulan had already sentenced the barbarian tribe to death in his heart. They would definitely be punished for daring to attack his city. But before that, he needed to seal off the area. He looked up at the top of the mountain, which was covered in snow. That was the white dragon's lair. He couldn't alarm the white dragon when dealing with these barbarians. A faint magic power came from Sulan, but the barbarians in the camp didn't notice it at all. They were still busy with their own tasks. A few barbarian warriors were wrestling in the open space, while the dragonkin warriors sat beside them and ate meat. Because they had conquered Wallachia city, the barbarians' harvest was beyond imagination. Originally, most of the barbarians used bone and stone weapons. Now, they had all changed to metal weapons. Some of the barbarian warriors even wore full-body armor. No one knew which unlucky knight had left it behind, but it was obviously a size too small for the barbarian warrior. But he didn't care and walked through the crowd with his head held high. It was difficult to cast a spell to cover the entire camp, and it was even more difficult to cast it in order to prevent the white dragon from discovering the magic waves. In order to suppress the magic waves, Sulan lengthened the casting time by several times. Finally, a dim and weak light flashed, and the spell was finally released. Silent Domain. Maximum spell plus silent spell cast, a transparent barrier descended from the sky, instantly enveloping the entire campsite. The original clamor disappeared in an instant, and the foot of the mountain became silent in an instant. After observing for a while, Su Len sighed in relief when he saw that there was no movement in the white dragon's lair. He then waved at the soldiers behind him, and the soldiers who were already prepared immediately began to attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The archers of the sound shooting battalion instantly burst forth with astonishing speed. Only 30 archers of the sound shooting battalion activated rapid shooting and directly shot out a wave of arrows. The unprepared barbarians of the northern region were instantly turned into porcupines by the rain of arrows. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! After being attacked, the barbarians of the northern region reacted very quickly. As a tribe that lived in the wilderness, if they didn't react quickly enough, they wouldn't have the right to survive. A dozen barbarian warriors formed an arrowhead and charged forward. These top-level axe-wielding barbarian warriors roared and activated Berserk, then charged forward with their axes. Whirlwind slash, charge, chop, whirlwind slash, charge, chop. Although the moves were simple and crude, corpses were everywhere they passed. The axes of the barbarians' axes broke bones and tore tendons. Although the northern barbarians were strong, they were no better than little chicks when facing this group of berserkers. With a flash of lightning, the storm halberd appeared in Su Luan's hand. Then, with a flash of lightning, the two barbarian warriors who had just rushed up were instantly turned into charcoal. Chop! Sullen's storm war halberd swept across. The blade of the halberd shone with a cold light and pierced through the scales of another dragon barbarian. Blood splattered everywhere. A hideous wound appeared on the dragon barbarian's chest. The sharp blade of the halberd had cut through the dragon barbarian's ribs. The white bone stubble made one's scalp tingle. The colorful internal organs were steaming and falling out. Battle cries rang out everywhere. Facing the well-prepared army of Florence, the barbarians of the northern region were forced to retreat. Although the battle had been developing in their favor, Sullen's army had also suffered a lot of losses. The barbarians of the northern region had obtained a large amount of resources and various weapons after conquering Wallachia city. They were 10 times stronger than the broken weapons they originally had. The steel weapons were naturally lethal. Fortunately, Su Len had brought elite troops this time. Although the 1st Legion of San Felto City had recruited a lot of new soldiers, the main force of the army was Sullen's men from the northern city. They were powerful and were the backbone of the army. Get out of the way! At this time, a scorching hot fireball instantly smashed towards the charging crowd. The orange-red flame carried a scorching hot aura as it flew over. At this time, a tall figure instantly jumped up and swept the giant axe in his hand. A chi blade swept out from the axe blade and instantly split the basketball-sized fireball into 2 halves. Boom! With a loud bang, the fireball exploded. It was as if a ball of red-hot molten iron had exploded. Golden-red scorching flames flew all over the sky. The tall figure was blown far away. The giant axe in his hand was blown to pieces, and the iron armor on his body was scorched red by the flames. Fortunately, the quality of the armor was good, and it was not damaged by the explosion. Otherwise, this would have been enough to take his life. Su Len casually sent a green aura into the barbarian's body. The barbarian's injuries from the explosion began to heal quickly. After the fireball was blown up by the axe, the flames splashed everywhere. The most unlucky ones were the barbarians who lacked armor. Sullen's troops were all wearing armor. Although the flames splashed by the fireball were hot, the armor didn't affect them too much. However, the barbarians were not so lucky. A rain of fire splashed out, and the dirty furs on their bodies quickly burned. These barbarians in the northern wasteland didn't know how to make leather. Moreover, most of the leather on their bodies was covered in oil. When the sparks landed on them, a raging fire immediately rose. Before those barbarians could react, the fire had spread to their bodies. Many of them directly turned into human-shaped fireballs. The morale of the northern barbarians, who had been defeated, was even lower. Soren's hand flashed, and a lightning spear appeared in an instant. With a flash of lightning, it flew out in an instant. Lightning spear. The dragon sorcerer, who had just released the fireball, suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. The next second, boundless darkness shrouded him. After killing the dragon sorcerer, the resistance of the northern barbarians began to weaken. Many of them had begun to sneak away, but Su Len, who had already surrounded the whole camp, would not let any enemy go. The barbarians who had fallen into a desperate situation fought madly with bloodshot eyes. They wanted to rush out a path of survival, but it was destined to be futile. The archers who had been guarding the perimeter had long stopped the rain of arrows and started to target the barbarians. These archers were all godly archers. They directly sniped the barbarians who resisted fiercely. With the continuous killing, the resistance of the northern barbarians became weaker and weaker. This tribe of 2,000 people had completely lost the ability to resist. The whole camp was full of barbarians' corpses. About half an hour later, the cries in the camp gradually disappeared. All the rebels were killed, and the rest were captured. It could be said that this battle was a total victory. Your Majesty, all the northern barbarians are here. In addition to those who were killed, there are more than 1,300 people captured. Among them, 230 were seriously injured, and the rest were lightly injured or uninjured. None of them escaped. In this battle, our army lost 37 people, 120 were seriously injured, and no light injuries were taken into account. It was a total victory, a servant said respectfully. Clean up the battlefield and escort the captives back to the city of Vadia. Kill those who are seriously injured, Su Len said coldly. It was as if the more than 200 seriously injured people were just some cold numbers. Take care of the injured brothers properly. Bring the seriously injured here for medical treatment. Soon, all the seriously injured were sent to Sullen's tent. To Su Len, as long as they were not dead, even if they had lost an arm or a leg, he could just put the arm back and use the living healing spell to save them. More than 100 seriously injured people were quickly treated. Su Len could not bear to see these people die or become disabled and retire. These seriously injured people were all excellent soldiers, much stronger than the newly recruited ones. Sullen's healing spell allowed his army to grow rapidly. Every veteran who had been on the battlefield and had rich experience in killing were very precious. As long as these veterans were there, they could quickly build up an army. Bring some of the surrendered barbarians here. I have something to ask them. Su Len said after casting the spell. Yes. The guard at the side hurriedly left. Soon, a few surrendered barbarians were brought over. Kneel. The guards behind him lifted their legs and kicked the barbarians' knees, pressing them to the ground. What is your position in the tribe? Su Len looked at the barbarians in front of him. The barbarians looked at each other and said, I am the tribe's priest. You should know about that dragon, right? Su Len asked directly. Yes. Where did it come from? How long has it been here? Why did it attack Vadia city? How strong is it? What are its hobbies? Su Len stared at the barbarian priest. Are you planning to attack the dragon god? I won't tell you. Don't think you can get any information about the dragon god from me. Hearing Sullen's words, the barbarian priest's expression changed and he shouted. Looks like you won't give up until you see the coffin. Su Len shook his head slightly. You think I can't do anything if you don't tell me? Naive. You don't understand the power of magic. Su Len sneered. The barbarian priest's expression changed. He struggled and tried to hit the sharp blade next to him, but he was too late. Dominate human. A ray of light flashed from Sullen's body. In the next second, the barbarian priest who was struggling stiffened. Then, his gaze became dull. So what if you resisted? You still have to tell me, right? Su Len sneered. Then, he began to ask the barbarian priest questions. After that, Su Len casually summoned a ray of light and controlled another barbarian to ask the same questions. Chapter 575. After some questioning, Su Len had a clearer understanding of the giant dragon. His guess was right. It was indeed an elderly white dragon. According to the barbarians, this elderly white dragon had come here from the north 2 years ago. After arriving, it immediately conquered a few surrounding tribes and united them into a tribe of about 2,000 people. After converting a group of dragon descendants, it went into a deep slumber. It was only a year ago that the white dragon woke up and began to move around. The white dragon had attacked the city of Wallachia because it wanted more wealth. After observing for a long time, it made its move. As expected, the city of Wallachia was conquered by the white dragon, and all the wealth in the city was plundered. His followers, on the other hand, obtained a large amount of weapons and resources. After understanding the situation of this white dragon, Su Len began to prepare to slay it. This white dragon was not considered strong among the giant dragons. Its followers had been wiped out by Su Len, and now only the dragon itself was left. According to various records, many giant dragons would enslave large numbers of servants and followers. The most successful example was the Red Dragon Queen in the south. Giant dragons could enslave most monsters as their servants, including all your own species and even those weaker than them. Therefore, most of the time, when facing a giant dragon, it was not just a single dragon, but an entire army. Take the Red Dragon Queen for example. She had several red dragons under her command, as well as numerous dragon descendants. She relied on her powerful strength to suppress the southern countries and make them tremble in fear. Every year, they had to pay her taxes. Even the churches of the gods were not willing to provoke her. Many people thought that they could slay a dragon after reading some so-called strategy guides, but these people were usually killed by the dragon's servants at the first checkpoint. As for the bard's stories of knights slaying dragons with the help of a group of companions, they were basically just rumors. If one wanted to slay a dragon, the first thing one had to face was its army of monsters. Dragons would not be stupid enough to fight one-on-one with you. They would use all their advantages to fight. For example, if a warrior were to fight a dragon, he would be in a passive state. The dragon could fly, but the warrior couldn't fly. Arrows couldn't reach the dragon either. Only when the dragon swooped down would the warrior have the opportunity to attack. However, this opportunity often represented a great risk. If the warrior wasn't careful, he would die on the spot. Moreover, compared to hand-to-hand combat, giant dragons preferred to use their dragon breath to destroy their enemies. For the winged dragons, they had complete strategic initiative. They could fight and leave as they pleased. When the dragons sensed danger, they would also flee. Therefore, when a warrior or knight fought a dragon, the first thing they should do was to make it unable to fly. If they couldn't do that, then they should retreat as soon as possible. Most melee classes were at a disadvantage in the air. There was no combat aura in this world that could allow warriors or sword saints to fight in the air, unless they raised their strength to advanced legendary and mastered the domain. All of you stay here. I'll go up alone, Su Len said. Your Majesty, let us go together. Isn't it just a dragon? We have a dragon-slaying weapon to deal with it, a barbarian warrior said while waving a dragon-slaying spear. This dragon-slaying spear was specially used to deal with giant creatures. The body of the spear was tough and sharp. There were barbs on the spearhead, and there was a blood groove on the side. When the spear stabbed down, the hook would latch onto the muscles and fascia. Once it was forcefully torn, it would cause an even more terrible wound. The blood groove on the spearhead would quickly drain the blood of the prey. Su Len thought for a moment, then said, "Those whose strength is below tier 3 don't need to go. Those whose strength is above tier 3 take the javelins. Remember, when facing a dragon, don't stand in a group. Spread out and pay attention to dodge. Don't fight the dragon head-on. You won't be able to win. It can tear you apart with a casual attack." Su Len picked up a javelin and held it in his hand. He continued, "Use these javelins to shoot. Don't think about attacking other places. Aim at its dragon wings. As long as it dives down, use the javelins to attack its dragon wings." Dragons had a layer of tough dragon scales, and under the dragon scales was a layer of dragon skin. Its defense was very strong. However, the only part of its body that did not have dragon scales was its wings. Of course, it was said that there were no dragon scales. In fact, it was a layer of very small scales. Its defense was far lower than other parts of its body. Of course, not all dragons relied on their wings to fly. They relied on a kind of spell-like ability. Many pure-blooded dragons' wings were only for auxiliary purposes. Even if their wings were injured, it would still not affect their ability to fly. However, the white dragon Su Len was preparing to deal with now was not one of them. Once the white dragon's wings were injured, it would definitely be unable to fly. At that time, the difficulty of killing the white dragon would be reduced by half. In fact, Su Len also had other ways to deal with the white dragon. For example, he had the Hydra's venom in his hands. Although the dragon's poison resistance was very amazing, the Hydra's venom was not ordinary. Even a dragon would not be able to withstand it. However, in this way, the blood in the white dragon's body would be contaminated and basically lose its value. Even the dragon's flesh and other parts of the dragon would be seriously affected. It could be said that even if the dragon was successfully killed, only the dragon scales and dragon skin would be of some use. To Su Len, this was basically a waste of 90% of the dragon's materials. The Hydra's venom was not that easy to remove. Su Len led the two teams of warriors and carefully climbed to the top of the mountain. The higher they went, the lower the temperature. Although part of it was due to the climate and environment, the more important part was the radiation of the dragon's body. Soon, the ground under their feet began to be covered with snow. The mountain peak became steep and slippery. A thick layer of ice covered the top of the mountain. This was not naturally formed. It was the effect of the white dragon's breath. The white dragon was born with the ability to walk on ice. It could walk on ice as if it was flat ground. On such a steep and slippery ice layer, if one was not careful, one would slip and fall. One should know that this was the top of the mountain. If one were to slide down from here, even the barbarian's physique would not be able to withstand it. "You guys can stay here." Su Len looked around and said. The space at the top of the mountain was narrow and there was almost no shelter. There was also a layer of ice covering the mountain. It was very unfriendly to others. Find a place to hide. If you have the chance, use the javelins to attack the white dragon's wings. At the same time, remember to protect yourselves. Su Len finished speaking and walked directly to the top of the mountain. Greater invisibility. A light flashed and Sullen's figure completely disappeared. Erase traces. Another light flashed and even Sullen's footprints and smell disappeared. After hiding, Su Len began to approach the white dragon's nest. The white dragon's nest was very steep and covered with a layer of ice. The entire mountain wall was very smooth. The cold wind whistled at the top of the mountain. It would be a problem for ordinary people to even stand, but for Su Len, it was not difficult at all. With a walk on the ice, Su Len walked on the ice as if it were flat ground. At the top of the mountain was an open platform that was smooth and flat. Dragons usually took off and landed on this platform. Because of their weight, dragons preferred to fly from high places. It was difficult for them to take off from flat ground. As soon as Su Len arrived, he felt something strange. An invisible pressure enveloped him. This pressure made his heart beat faster and made him nervous. The hair on his body stood on end, giving him a creepy feeling. Su Len had experienced this feeling before. That was when he was in the fire elemental plane and the red dragon onyx via. Draconic aura. A word popped up in Sullen's mind. The draconic aura disappeared as quickly as it came. After a breath, this draconic aura had no effect on Su Len at all. This white dragon's draconic aura was not very strong. At best, it was similar to Onyxvia's. Onyxvia had just entered adulthood. Although it was 2 years younger than this white dragon, as the strongest red dragon among the pentashade dragons, its draconic aura was far stronger than that of a white dragon. The most troublesome thing about killing a dragon was its draconic aura. This was a natural ability that existed from birth. As time passed, the draconic aura would become stronger and stronger. Draconic aura was very important to a dragon. They could easily enslave a large number of monsters with their draconic aura. At the same time, when facing a large number of enemies, it could intimidate the enemies. Those creatures with weaker minds and weak wills would not even have the courage to attack. Ordinary people could not withstand draconic aura at all. Even professionals would have to go through a test of will. More than 80% of professionals would not be able to withstand it. Therefore, there was no need to think about using human wave tactics to deal with a dragon. In fact, the more powerful and high-end the battle, the higher the requirement for will. In a battle of this level, there would often be a need for a test of will. Many of the wizard's control spells also required a test of will. Once the test failed, the target would be controlled by the spell. The more powerful the monster or demon, the more likely it was to have this kind of control spell. For example, the succubus queen in the bottomless abyss. Her seduction spell could not be resisted even by high-grade legendary figures. Once the target failed the test, they would be controlled by the succubus queen. When he came to the platform, Su Len quickly found the white dragon's nest. Before he got close to the nest, the dragon's nest was not deep. Su Len saw the target at a glance. It was a huge white dragon. This white dragon was at least 30 meters long. Its scales were smooth and had a layer of mirror-like silver white. It had sharp claws, sharp bone spurs, and a small mountain of gold treasures under its body. It was very similar to a powerful dragon. The wealth possessed by a dragon also represented the dragon's strength. Chapter 576. A cold wind blew, and a few snowflakes drifted down. It was snowing lightly in the sky. The white dragon in the center of the dragon's nest was still sleeping. Long and drawn-out breathing sounds could be heard. As the white dragon breathed, countless small pieces of ice flew out of the dragon's mouth and nose. Su Len moved slowly and lowered his footsteps as he approached the sleeping white dragon. Although the white dragon was sleeping, as long as Su Len made the slightest noise, it would immediately wake up. Under normal circumstances, the white dragon's nest was guarded by its kin, but this white dragon was very lucky. Its kin had all been killed at the foot of the mountain, so there were no guards around the nest at all. Su Len carefully moved forward, carefully observing the surrounding ground. Sure enough, he found a few hidden magic traps near the nest. Fortunately, the white dragon's magic ability was average, so these magic traps were not difficult enough. Su Len spent some time and successfully removed the magic traps. Su Len carefully followed the small path and continued to move deeper into the nest. He was less than 30 meters away from the white dragon. At this distance, he could clearly see the white dragon. It was more than 30 meters in size, with white scales and sharp claws. Below the white dragon's body, there was a dazzling light. That was the white dragon's treasure. In addition to gold and silver, there were many magic gems here. In addition, it had just ransacked a city. The number of treasures in front of him was astonishing. Su Lan did not continue to approach. He was not a professional thief, and he was not confident that he could continue to approach without waking the white dragon. However, this distance was enough. If he wanted to, he could close the distance in the blink of an eye. Sullen's figure immediately pounced on the white dragon. The moment he moved, the white dragon seemed to sense something. Its body moved slightly, and in an instant, it opened its huge eyes. Roar! The white dragon's painful roar instantly resounded in the dragon's nest. Su Lan only felt his ears rumbling. The storm war halberd with infinite lightning instantly slashed on the white dragon's wing bone. A sound of fine iron colliding rang out, and the hard dragon bone was directly broken. The dragon, who had just woken up, immediately felt the excruciating pain. It immediately spat out a mouthful of dragon breath at Su Lan. A bone-piercing chill spread out. Sullen's body stiffened, and the ice dragon breath gushed out. At this moment, a flash of light appeared, and Sullen's figure disappeared. The extremely cold ice dragon breath instantly enveloped the place where he had been. Even the air seemed to have frozen. Although the white dragon's breath was the weakest of the chromatic dragons, and its damage was only half of that of the red dragons, the slightest contact with it would cause one's body to stiffen, which was very unfavorable for melee professions. Sullen's figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. He waved his hand and a lightning spear appeared in his hand. He then threw it at the giant dragon and ran out of the dragon's nest without looking back. Rumble! Muffled thunder came from the dragon's nest. Despicable ambusher, how dare you ambush the great king of the north? I will freeze you into an ice sculpture and smash you into powder. The giant dragon roared angrily, followed by the sound of flapping wings. In the next second, the white dragon's huge body rushed out of the dragon's nest. The dragon race's agility was not high. Adult giant dragons could be said to be clumsy on the ground, but their speed was not slow. The white dragon rushed out of the dragon's nest and swooped down. It spread its huge dragon wings and flew up in an instant. Then, it opened its mouth and spat out a dragon breath, wanting to freeze Su Lan into an ice sculpture. The white dragon breath flashed with countless ice crystals in an instant. Sullen's body flashed again, and the moment before the dragon breath arrived, he disappeared and reappeared above the white dragon. War roar! The huge roar resounded through the sky, and a powerful sound wave spread out from Sullen's body. The terrifying sound wave spread out like a wave, accompanied by an intense energy fluctuation. With Su Lan as the center, the sound wave spread out rapidly within a 500-meter radius. The hard ice on the mountain top was directly shattered by the loud sound. The white dragon felt as if its head was hit by a hammer. A wave of dizziness came over it, and its huge body began to fall. At the same time, the soldiers who were already prepared appeared. The valiant soldiers who were already prepared wore earmuffs and were a little far away. In addition, their physical fitness was good. Although they were also affected by the war roar, they did not feel dizzy. Whoosh! 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 Just as the white dragon was falling, the soldiers threw out heavy javelins. The gleaming javelins cut through the air and instantly hit the white dragon's body. Some of the javelins hit the dragon's scales, but most of them were bounced away. Only a small number of javelins barely broke through the dragon's scales, but some of them hit the dragon's wings. The defense of the dragon's wings was not as strong as the other parts of the dragon. Many javelins directly penetrated the dragon's wings, and then the barbs pierced the muscles and fascia and hung on the dragon's wings. After the white dragon was attacked, it immediately woke up from the dizziness. It endured the pain and struggled to fly up. However, how could Su Lan let go of this opportunity? Thunder slash! Dazzling lightning burst out from the storm halberd, and then slashed at the white dragon's wings again. The halberd cut through the air, and a sharp whistling sound was heard. The storm halberd once again hit the white dragon's wing bone. Roar! The white dragon roared in anger and pain. Su Len jumped and flipped onto the white dragon's back in an instant. He exerted force with his feet. Su Len ran quickly on the white dragon's back. At this moment, the white dragon noticed Su Len on its back. Its body rolled directly and crashed into the cliff beside it. It looked like it was going to smash Su Len into meat paste. Su Len exerted force with the tip of his foot and jumped directly from the white dragon's back. Then, he tilted his body and kicked hard on the cliff with his right foot. Once again, he rushed toward the white dragon. Frost breath. Seeing Su Len rushing toward it, the white dragon showed a cruel and bloodthirsty expression. Seeing that Su Len was about to rush up, the white dragon suddenly turned its head and opened its ferocious mouth. A bone-chilling frost breath was instantly spat out. Su Len, who was charging at a high speed, could not dodge at all. The lightning on his body flashed instantly, and a shield made of lightning appeared in front of him. In the next second, the frost breath collided with the thunder shield. The bone-chilling coldness was felt, and a thick ice sculpture was formed on the thunder shield. Seeing that the ice sculpture was formed in an instant, the white dragon's eyes flashed with a hint of violence. However, before it could do anything, countless lightning bolts exploded from the ice sculpture. Su Len swung the storm halberd from the sky and pounced on the white dragon's neck like an eagle. Roar! The white dragon's dull roar was heard, and it was in great pain. The white dragon's huge body could not help but tremble. Then, its thick dragon tail swept toward Su Len. Scorching blood gushed out. The storm halberd left a deep wound on the white dragon's neck. The dragon's scales were broken, and the wound was 30 centimeters long. Through the wound, one could even see the bones inside. The dragon's tail came with a whistling wind. Su Len did not even look back. With a flash of light, his figure disappeared in an instant and reappeared in midair in the next second. The white dragon's huge body made it difficult for it to turn around. Moreover, its huge body also provided plenty of attacking positions. Its body could even become a tool for Su Len to dodge. Lightning flashed, and the storm halberd in Su Len's hand danced quickly. Cold light slashed continuously on the white dragon's body. The white dragon's hard dragon scales could not block these attacks at all. Soon, a large number of wounds appeared on the white dragon's body. However, these wounds were not serious. They were just some superficial wounds. Relying on the white dragon's strong recovery ability, the bleeding would soon stop. The damage caused by Su Len's rapid and continuous attacks was limited. Perhaps the white dragon was tired of Su Len jumping up and down beside it, so it directly breathed dragon's breath on its body. For the white dragon who was immune to frost damage, the dragon's breath only made it feel a little cold and did not cause any damage. However, Su Len had to dodge to other places. Seeing that the attack was effective, the white dragon did not stop. A strong wind covered its head. The white dragon flapped its wings. The wind whistled. Su Len stuck close to the white dragon's wings and dodged. After dodging Su Len, the white dragon immediately flapped its wings to attack. The javelins on the white dragon's wings played a role in this violent movement. After the white dragon flapped its wings, it directly tore a hole more than half a meter in the white dragon's wings. Bright red dragon blood gushed out. Not only did the attack not hit Su Len, but it also caused more serious injuries. The white dragon's flying ability was completely destroyed. This kind of injury would prevent the white dragon from flying for a long time. Of course, with the powerful recovery ability of the dragon race, this kind of injury would be completely healed in a month at most. The immense pain from the white dragon's wings caused its body to tremble. Its movements also became stiff for a moment. After seeing this flaw, Su Len did not hesitate at all and instantly rushed forward. The powerful power of thunder quickly gathered in Su Len's hands. The storm battle halberd once again bloomed with dazzling thunder. Sullen's halberd swept horizontally and once again slashed at the white dragon's neck. At this moment, 50 points of strength exploded. The storm battle halberd directly broke through the white dragon's scales, then cut through the tough muscles and fascia, and deeply cut into the white dragon's neck bone. A mournful dragon's roar sounded out, and the immense pain made the white dragon even crazier. It tried to throw Su Luan away, but Su Luan used this force to put away the storm war halberd. Although the white dragon's neck was not cut off, the injury was also very serious. Su Luan knew very well how hard the white dragon's bones were. Unless he was holding the silver sword of Gith or an artifact of the same level, it was basically impossible for him to cut off the white dragon's neck with one strike. The sharp pain from the white dragon's neck caused a trace of fear to rise in its heart. At that moment, it felt the fear of death. The fear in the white dragon's heart began to spread. After seeing Su Luan, the white dragon spat out a bone-chilling dragon's breath again. At the same time, a strange energy appeared in an instant. Ice fog spell. A large amount of ice fog rose in an instant and enveloped the white dragon. The ice fog spread quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it covered an area of a few hundred meters. Sullen's vision blurred, and the surroundings instantly turned into a white world. At the same time, a large amount of ice began to condense on Sullen's body. A flash of lightning flashed, and the surface of Sullen's body was instantly wrapped in lightning. All the ice fog around him was dispersed. It's hiding in the ice fog? Seeing the scene in front of him, Sullen's eyes quickly scanned the surroundings. However, it was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he could not see the white dragon's shadow at all. And as time passed, the surrounding coldness became stronger and stronger. Sullen's body flashed, and then he rushed out of the range of the ice fog spell in the next second. The white dragon hid in the ice fog, and the white scales on its body became the best camouflage color. There was no trace of it at all. Seeing this situation, Su Luan turned his palm, and in the next second, a flag appeared in his hand. Wind tornado. A powerful spell fluctuation came, and the wind elements quickly gathered. In the blink of an eye, 2 tornadoes that reached the sky appeared in front of him. The tornadoes moved quickly around, and the originally white ice fog was instantly blown away by the tornadoes, and the scene inside was completely exposed. To Sullen's surprise, the white dragon was not preparing to launch a sneak attack, but was preparing to run away. All the javelins on the dragon's wings had been pulled out, and the dragon's wings were broken and bloody. However, the white dragon did not care and directly breathed dragon's breath on the dragon's wings. The original holes and wounds were instantly frozen. Although it was still somewhat inconvenient to move, it could now fly again. Seeing this situation, Su Luan was a little surprised. At that time, it was reasonable. Although dragons were arrogant, they were not brainless. After confirming that they could not beat them, they would also run away. One must know that dragons often ran away in the affairs of dragon whelps, and even dragon whelps, but they would usually remember these things. Dragons were very vengeful creatures. They would even be attacked when they were young, and then when they were strong, they would directly fly over to retaliate. Seeing that the dragon was about to run away, Su Luan rushed up without thinking. He did not want to be remembered by a dragon in the future. Thunder Spear. The dazzling thunder flashed in Sullen's hand, and in the next second, a spear completely composed of thunder and lightning flew out in an instant. In the blink of an eye, it hit the dragon's body. The infinite power of thunder and lightning exploded on the dragon's body, and the white dragon, who was about to escape, was stunned for a moment. Sullen's figure flashed, and in the next second, he appeared beside the white dragon. The storm halberd swept across, and the sharp halberd blade instantly cut the dragon's wing bones. The dragon's wing bones, which were already overwhelmed, could not withstand the pressure and directly broke. Roar! The cold dragon's breath came, and Su Len moved his feet. His body instantly went around the dragon's side, and the storm halberd in his hand quickly attacked. After losing the dragon's wings, the white dragon could not fly, and their movement speed was even slower. They could not keep up with Su Len's rhythm at all. They were beaten by Su Len, who was at full strength, and could not fight back. Chapter 577. Roar. A dragon's roar echoed around the top of the mountain. The snow had stopped, but the air was getting colder. The white dragon became crazier after realizing that it had no hope of escaping. It wanted to kill Su Len at all costs. The white dragon's wings, neck, and back were torn apart. Dragon blood kept dripping onto the ice. Although the dragon looked like it was in a sorry state, it was only on the surface. The dragon's strong vitality gave them an extraordinary tolerance for injuries. Even now, the white dragon's injuries did not cause it to enter a state of serious injury. The white dragon's eyes were red. It had just used the frost dragon's breath to freeze its wounds, and then relied on its rapid recovery ability to recover. Seeing this ferocious beast in such a sorry state, a few barbarian warriors not far away also became eager. In their eyes, this dragon was about to die. As long as they could leave a wound on it, it would be enough for these barbarians to brag about for the rest of their lives. Finally, after seeing the hideous wounds on the dragon's body, the barbarian warrior waved his giant axe and chopped at it with all his strength. "Don't attack, retreat." Su Len's expression changed when he saw the barbarians break the rules and attack the dragon. He immediately reminded them loudly. Unfortunately, it was too late. A bloodthirsty look appeared in the white dragon's eyes. Its originally slow movement sped up in an instant. Its huge body was unexpectedly agile at this moment. The barbarians who had just rushed up did not have time to react. They were instantly slapped down by the dragon's huge claws like flies, and then stepped on with force. The white dragon's body was more than 30 meters long, and its weight was at least 20 to 30 tons or more. One could imagine the explosive pressure when all this weight was used on its feet. The armor made of fine steel was completely useless under this pressure. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on it. Bang! A dull thud sounded, followed by the sound of metal rubbing against each other. The armor made by the dwarven master was flattened like a can. The barbarian warrior was stepped on like a ripe tomato. Bright red juice splashed out, and the hard ice cracked like a spider web. The surrounding ground was instantly blood red. In this situation, no matter how powerful Su Len's physical healing technique was, it wouldn't be able to save him. Unless he upgraded his physical healing technique to the highest level and learned the 7-star life-prolonging lamp, he would be able to revive him. "Back off, everyone back off," Su Len said with an ugly expression. Then, lightning appeared on his body again. After the white dragon finished its attack, it didn't have the slightest intention of stopping. Those people were too close to it just now, and there was no time to dodge. The white dragon's huge body twisted slightly, its ferocious head stretched forward, and its mouth full of sharp teeth opened slightly. Su Len's expression changed, and he immediately shouted, "Dodge, it's the dragon's breath." "Who?" The piercing cold shrouded in an instant, and countless ice crystals were spat out from the white dragon's mouth. Everything in its path turned into ice sculptures. The range of the dragon's breath was more than 15 meters. Those who didn't dodge in time were directly frozen. Countless ice crystals quickly condensed on their bodies. Almost at this moment, their bodies were frozen into hard ice sculptures. The dragon's breath dissipated, and 3 lifelike ice sculptures flickered under the sun. Through the layer of ice on the ice sculptures, one could clearly see the expressions of those people before they were frozen. Bang! The huge dragon claw suddenly slammed forward, and the 3 ice sculptures in front of them were like crystal glass, instantly shattering into countless pieces. The other barbarian warriors around them were furious. Their brothers died in the blink of an eye, and they wanted to rush up to avenge them. However, under Sullen's command, they all pushed away. In this battle, those barbarian warriors could only harass from a distance. Those who dared to intervene directly were all killed by the dragon. In this level of battle, even a grade 4 profession could only be a bystander. The difference between the body of a human and a dragon was too big. The dragon weighed more than 20 tons, and it would be crushed easily. Flash. With a flash of lightning, Sullen's figure instantly appeared beside the dragon, and he quickly swung the storm war halberd in his hand. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. The white dragon blocked with its claws, and the storm war halberd left a deep mark on its claws. A piercing pain came from the claws, and the white dragon opened its mouth and spat out another mouthful of dragon's breath. Sullen tiptoed, and his body changed direction in an instant with a strange posture. He narrowly dodged the dragon's breath, and then quickly circled to the dragon's feet. The storm war halberd in his hand cut along the dragon's scales, and then pierced into the muscle tissue under the dragon's skin. With a fierce twist, the white dragon's fascia was directly cut off. Dragon's blood sprayed out. Sullen's body was also drenched in dragon's blood, and a burning sensation came from his body. The dragon's blood was very corrosive, and its nature was like a strong acid. If one didn't have a strong enough constitution, just the dragon's blood alone could burn a person to death. In the songs of many bards, a dragon-slaying hero bathed in dragon's blood would become invulnerable, and his strength would increase rapidly. This saying was not accurate. Dragon's blood didn't have such a powerful effect. As for bathing in dragon's blood, it could indeed increase one's strength. There was a type of dragon's blood baptism ceremony that could enhance one's physical fitness, but this kind of enhancement was only effective for people whose constitution was below 40. Moreover, the dragon's blood baptism was divided into 5 levels, corresponding to the 5 types of dragons: red, blue, green, black, and white. 5 levels of dragon's blood baptism could directly promote a warrior below the legendary rank to the legendary rank. However, the dragon's blood baptism ceremony was obviously of little value to Sullen. After cutting off one of the tendons, Sullen didn't stop at all. He moved his feet and rushed out in an instant. The moment he rushed out, a thick and powerful dragon's tail swept directly at him. Sullen exerted force on his feet, and his body instantly leaped onto the white dragon's back again. Without any hesitation, Sullen quickly ran up the dragon's spine and quickly arrived at the dragon's neck again. At this time, the white dragon also noticed Sullen's intention. At the thought of the attack that almost cut off its neck not long ago, the white dragon didn't even think about it. It didn't care about the dragon's pride and directly rolled on the ground like a lazy donkey. Its huge body rolled on the ground like a small mountain. Sensing that something was wrong, Sullen didn't have time to attack, and instantly jumped down from the dragon's back. Boom! The 30-meter-long giant rolled on the ground, and the movement was very loud. The barbarian warriors who were originally around ran as far as they could. If they didn't dodge in time, they would end up being crushed into a meat patty. After the white dragon rolled and shook off Sullen, its long tail swept over. The dragon's tail swept across, and wherever it passed, the rocks and branches in front of it were all swept away. With a flash of lightning, Sullen's figure disappeared in an instant and then reappeared beside the dragon. As soon as he appeared, Sullen felt a piercing chill. Before he could react, the frost dragon's breath covered his head. Sullen had just used flash, so he didn't have time to dodge again and was directly hit. The cold chill shrouded Sullen, and the surface of his body began to condense ice. After this period of battle, the white dragon had discovered a pattern. Every time Sullen flashed, he would appear around it. So when it saw Sullen flash, it directly used Frost Dragon's breath to cover the surrounding area in an instant. This was also the reason why Sullen collided with the Frost Dragon's breath as soon as he appeared. Feeling the stiffness of his body, Sullen's expression changed greatly. The lightning power in his body exploded in an instant, and the ice on the surface of his body quickly shattered. In the blink of an eye, Su Len was about to break free, but it was too late. The huge dragon's tail swept over with a whistling sound. Su Len's vision turned black, and he felt a sharp pain. His body flew backward involuntarily, and the lightning shield on the surface of his body collapsed under this huge force. Bang! With a loud sound, Su Len crashed heavily on the rock, and the hard rock was directly smashed into cracks. After the white dragon sent Su Len flying, it didn't stop at all. It rushed up, ready to completely tear this guy who had caused it so much damage into pieces. Sensing the danger approaching, the lightning power in Su Len's body surged out instantly, and countless lightning bolts burst out. Su Len's figure was like lightning, and he quickly rushed toward the white dragon. This time, his burst of power was extremely shocking. In short distances, he was even faster than when he flashed. The moment he clashed with the dragon, Su Len instantly turned over and jumped on the dragon's back again. The storm battle halberd in his hand carried infinite lightning bolts as it swung down fiercely. Thunder slash. This time, Su Len used all his strength to attack the dragon's head. The blade of the halberd slashed at the white dragon's neck, and the huge force directly pressed the white dragon's head down, but it still didn't cut off its head. Su Len didn't care. The storm battle halberd in his hand slashed at the white dragon again, this time at the same position as before. The white dragon let out a mournful cry, and its huge body fell to the ground. The storm battle halberd sank deep into the dragon's neck bone. With a soft crack, the white dragon couldn't bear the huge wound. The dragon's neck bone was directly broken, and its breath of life was quickly fading away. The white dragon in front of him was finally dead. Congratulations, host, you have successfully killed an old white dragon. You have received 378,600 experience points. You have won the battle. Congratulations, host, you have successfully killed a powerful dragon. You have received the title of Dragon Slayer. Your name has been widely spread throughout the continent. Your name has been sung by bards. You have successfully killed a dragon. Your own creatures will fear your aura, and pentashade dragons will loathe you. The chances of evil dragons attacking you have increased. You have received the favor of the metallic dragon. Congratulations, host, you have successfully killed a powerful dragon. You have received 1 legendary skill point as a reward. You have received 3 diamond treasure chests as a reward. You have received the item Dragon Bone. Chapter 578. The battle is over. You have obtained the dragon blood baptism that you obtained in the battle. You have obtained a partial ability bonus. Because your strength has exceeded the range of the dragon blood baptism, you can't increase your strength. Baptism complete. You have obtained a special talent, Dragon Blood Baptism, White. Dragon Blood Baptism, White. You have successfully killed an old white dragon. After this dragon slaying, you have undergone a dragon blood baptism and obtained a partial ability bonus. The dragon blood makes you stronger. At the same time, your skin becomes tougher. You have permanently obtained a natural armor point. Your toughness has increased by 1 point. This ability can be improved with the number of dragon blood baptisms. Scarlet blood slid down from Su Len's body. The dragon blood had lost its magic power, but there was still a lot of blood in the dragon's body. Su Len only used a small part of it. He snapped his fingers and a flash of light appeared. The dragon's huge body was directly sealed. This kind of sealing spell could temporarily preserve the dragon's body so that it would not lose its magic power over time. Then, the dragon's body could be stored in the storage space. The dragon's body was a very precious treasure. After special treatment, the dragon's meat could be used to increase attributes. At the same time, many nobles were eager to buy the dragon's meat because dragon meat generally had the effect of enhancing sex drive, especially the dragon's penis. As long as this thing appeared, nobles would be willing to spend a lot of money to buy it. A dragon was about 20 tons. After excluding the scales, bones, claws, teeth, and internal organs, about 8 tons of meat could be obtained. The hard dragon scales were a good magic material. They could be made into dragon scale armor or other things. After processing and enchantment, dragon scale armor had amazing resistance to physical and magical attacks. The best way to make a dragon skin robe was to make a dragon skin robe. This kind of dragon skin robe was not made from the skin of a lesser dragon. A dragon skin robe made from the skin of a true dragon was at the legendary level. Since Hathaway became a legendary, her wizard robe could no longer keep up with her. Now was the time to change it. White dragons had enough dragon skin. Of course, the best quality was the dragon skin on their abdomen. It was soft, tough, and had a high magic conductivity. The dragon skin on other parts of the body was slightly inferior. Not only did the dragon skin robes have powerful magic resistance, but they also had decent physical defense. They were basically comparable to ordinary armor. Although the remaining parts couldn't be used to craft dragon robes, they could still be used to craft magic scrolls. Due to its excellent magic conductivity and amazing tenacity, dragon skin was an excellent material for crafting advanced magic scrolls. After all, there was a level 9 magic scroll in White Raven Tower that was made of dragon skin. In addition to these items, there was another important item, the dragon crystal. Not all dragons had dragon crystals. Only a few dragons would form dragon crystals. This was a powerful magic material. It was the condensation of a dragon's mana. It could be used to make many things. Most of the innards of dragons were poisonous, but they were still good magic materials. Hathaway had many recipes that required these materials. As for the dragon heart, Sulen planned to give it to Phyllis. As a dragon blood sorcerer, Phyllis's bloodline power was not high. This time, Sulen obtained the white dragon heart. He could completely purify her blood and strengthen the effect of the dragon blood in her body. Before killing the dragon, Sulen had already prepared the various parts of the dragon's body. Seeing that Sulen had killed the giant creature, the surrounding barbarian warriors slowly approached. Sulen directly asked them to clean up the battlefield. The dead soldiers needed to be collected again. Although they had been shattered into ice shards, the 2 barbarian warriors still collected all the corpses, including the one that was trampled flat. Slaying a dragon not only represented the highest honor, but also represented wealth. After the dragon was killed, the huge wealth left behind would all belong to Sulen. This white dragon's wealth was not small. This time, although a few barbarian warriors were killed or injured, the harvest was also good. At the same time, the system notification sounded again. Dragon slaying successful, you have successfully slain a white dragon. The barbarian warriors under your command have followed you into battle. In the process of fighting the dragon, they have gained additional will. Survivors will permanently +1. All survivors morale +5. Dragon slaying battle, White Dragon, Legendary Battle June 1689 of the Radiant Moon Calendar. You learned that a city in San Filto had been conquered by a dragon. Then, you formed an army and advanced into the distance, preparing to use them in the upcoming battle. You discovered the white dragon's tracks and cleared out its descendants in advance. Then, you started a battle with the white dragon. You successfully killed an old white dragon. As the battle ended, more and more people learned of your prowess, and your name began to spread across the continent. The dragon's nest was very big. After storing the dragon's body, Sulen began to collect wealth. After entering the dragon's nest, Sulen saw a small mountain of gold sand. So much gold. It's dazzling my eyes, a barbarian warrior murmured. Compared to normal humans, the the barbarians were not very interested in money. They were more interested in eating and fighting. Pack up all the gold. Su Len glanced around and said. So many gems. There must be hundreds of them. A warrior beside him could not help but gulp. Su Len had brought his trusted subordinates with him this time. Most of them were from the northern city, so he could rest assured that they would fill up the treasure chests. Most of the treasures in front of them were looted by the White Dragon from Wallachia City. At that time, the White Dragon had moved all the treasures in the city. This White Dragon's wealth was more than many red dragons and gold dragons. Pack up all the treasures and bring them back. No one is allowed to hide them. If anyone dares to hide them, you know the consequences. When we return to San Filto City, I will reward you according to your contributions. Su Len quickly finished the task. He let the soldiers collect the gold products while he checked the various magic materials and gems in the treasure chests. There were more common gems, such as rubies, sapphires, agates, emeralds, and so on. There were about hundreds of them. These gems were less valuable. Perhaps it was because this world was rich in minerals. Finally, there were about 100 diamonds, which the White Dragon liked to collect. These diamonds collected by the White Dragon were of high quality and large in size. They were very good magic materials. One of the diamonds was bigger than an egg. It was a crystal clear rose diamond. It was oval in shape and had not been polished at all. Soren held the beautiful rose-pink diamond in his hand and estimated that it weighed about 60 grams. If this weight was in his previous world, it would probably be a rare treasure. If it was polished carefully, the price of this diamond would be very high. Of course, even in this world, it was quite rare. Basically, only the top nobles could have it. Su Len planned to give this rose-pink diamond to the dwarven craftsman to polish. A pink diamond of this quality could be made into jewelry or sold at a very high price. Of course, Su Len guessed that Hathaway and the others would not let him sell this gem. Su Len put away the rose-pink diamond and then continued to search the treasure chests. He wanted to see if there were any rare-grade equipment as trophies. Unfortunately, he only found some low and mid-grade magic equipment. It seemed that the dragon did not care much about it. Dragons had very rich appraisal skills. The value of an item could be accurately estimated to the level of 1 copper NAR. Most of the time, the dragon would know the specific price at a glance. A successful dragon was usually a top-notch valuer. As this dragon had not been here for a long time, it rarely encountered adventurers, and naturally, it was difficult for it to collect high-value rare-grade equipment. Su Len estimated that these rare-grade equipment were most likely obtained from the city of Vadia. Normally, the more frequently a dragon was challenged, the more it would have. The more loot it collected, the more valuable it would be. The White Dragon, which was directly killed by Su Luen, didn't collect many rare-grade equipment. After all, the Pentashade dragons did not know how to make equipment. Most of the equipment in the dragon nest was left behind by adventurers who wanted to be dragon slayers. Of course, the gold dragons and silver dragons of the metal dragons liked magic, so they also mastered the ability to make rare-grade equipment. Many of the gold dragons' collections were very shocking. As for the Red Dragon Queen of the Southern Seas, Su Len estimated that she should be the richest person in this realm. No, a dragon. As for those who dared to have designs on this treasure chest, they were either burned to ashes or thrown to the bottom of the sea to feed the fish. In addition to these treasures, Su Luen also collected magic plants around the dragon's nest. Due to the special environment in the dragon's nest, some dragonized plants would grow, the most famous of which was the dragon saliva. It was said that this plant was mutated when the dragon saliva dripped on the ground while it was sleeping. The dragon grass could be used to calm the nerves. The ambergris made from this material was very effective. For wizards, it could increase the efficiency of their meditation and increase the duration of their meditation. Other than the dragon grass, there was also the dragon scale grass. This plant was also mutated by the radiation around the dragon nest. The dragon scale grass was also a precious magic material. It could be used to make many potions. Sulen planned to try growing it in the mysterious realm. Although there was no white dragon, Sulen had a red dragon as his mount. After collecting everything, the entire battlefield was cleaned up. Even some of the dragon blood that had been sprayed out was collected and prepared to be used as fertilizer. Chapter 579. Under normal circumstances, the red dragon was the wealthiest among the chromatic dragons. The red dragon was powerful, arrogant, and liked to rob. An old red dragon usually had a shocking amount of wealth, so it attracted many adventurers to go and slay the red dragon. Of course, most of the time, they would give the red dragon equipment. An hour later, the dragon nest was finally cleaned up. All the gold and jewels were put into leather bags. Sulen's storage space was limited. It was already difficult to fit a dragon's body, let alone all the gold and jewels. He had to let the barbarian warriors carry them. Fortunately, the barbarian warriors were as strong as bulls. Each bag of gold weighed at least 300 to 400 pounds. Ordinary people would not be able to carry it, but they could easily carry it along the mountain path. "Boss, there's about 6,000 pounds of gold, thousands of jewels and diamonds, and 12,000 pounds of silver. We haven't tallied up the rest, but we made a lot of money this time." A warrior quickly calculated their gains. The white dragon Sulen had killed was an old one. It was about 800 to 1,000 years old. All the treasures in front of them were accumulated over 800 years. If a white dragon was so rich, one could imagine how rich the other dragons were. No wonder so many people wanted to be dragon-slaying heroes. The Kinnar coins minted in northern town were 80% gold. One Kinnar weighed 5 grams, which required 4 grams of gold. 6,000 pounds of gold could be used to make 750,000 Kinnar coins. Together with 12,000 pounds of silver, there were about 1,000,000 Kinnar coins. There were even more jewels and jewels. After everything was packed up, Sulen left the dragon nest with the army and returned to Wuxia City. Wuxia City would be rebuilt in the coming days. It was located at the northern border and was the gateway to the northwest. Sulen could not give it up. Although the city had been breached not long ago, the city's population had suffered heavy casualties, and even more people had fled to other cities. However, as long as the city was rebuilt, those refugees would quickly return. After all, not everyone could abandon the land here. After returning to the city, there were about 4,000 refugees in addition to the soldiers of Sanfelto's First Legion. These refugees were scattered in the wilderness after the fall of the city. Now that the city had been rebuilt, they had returned. After Sulen returned to the city, he immediately took out the white dragon's corpse and prepared to dispose of it. Leaving it there for too long would affect its quality. When the refugees saw the huge white dragon's corpse in the square, they instantly exploded. These refugees had personally witnessed the might of the white dragon when it broke through the city. Now that such a terrifying beast had been slain by the king, Sulen's prestige in the hearts of these refugees rose to the peak. News of Sulen's dragonslaying also spread like wildfire. The nobles near Wuxia City were the first to receive the news. When they heard that Sulen had killed a dragon, their faces turned pale, and they hurried to Wuxia City with all sorts of resources and treasures. Disposing of the white dragon's corpse was not an easy task. Sulen immediately contacted Hathaway and asked her to bring some things to help. When Hathaway heard that Sulen had successfully slain a dragon, she was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. She immediately abandoned the enigmatic lock technology that she was perfecting and used the teleportation circle to teleport to Wuxia City. It's so big. It really is an old white dragon. Hathaway's eyes lit up as she looked at the white dragon's corpse. Save this white dragon skin for me. I want to make a sorcerer's robe with it. Don't worry, I've saved the best for you. Su Len said with a smile. Hathaway walked around the corpse and said, "What do you plan to do with this white dragon's corpse?" "I haven't thought about it yet." "You're a sorcerer, so you have more say about this material." "You tell me," Su Len said. "Okay, I'll tell you first. If you have other ideas, you can add them." Hathaway nodded and said, "Dragon scales and skin can be used to make dragon scale armor and dragon hide armor. The skin on the belly and wings is soft and tough, so it can be used to make sorcerer's robes. The rest of the dragon skin can be used to make dragon hide armor. After enchantment, the worst of the dragon hide armor will be transcendent grade 3. The better ones can be grade 4 or even legendary. Even if you don't need it, it's not bad to give it to your core subordinates. The rest can be made into magic scrolls. Dragon scales can also be used to make armor. Compared to dragon hide armor, dragon scale armor has stronger defense. I checked the dragon's blood just now. There's still a lot left and it's been preserved well. It's very active and can be used to make dragon blood potions. Of course, it can also be used to carry out dragon blood baptism. As for the dragon's heart, I suggest you give it to Sister Phyllis. Although she's a dragon disciple now, her bloodline purity and aptitude are average. This white dragon's heart can at least raise her bloodline to excellent. The innards of the white dragon can also be used to make lesser dragon blood potions. It can be sold or used as a reward. Hathaway quickly distributed the white dragon's heart. Let's do that. Su Len had no objections. He then started to deal with the body. Although the white dragon was dead, its skin was still very tough. In order to keep the skin intact, Su Len personally led a dozen barbarian skinning masters to work. It took a lot of effort to peel off the dragon's skin. The dragon's skin was so tough that dozens of skinning knives were broken. Dragon meat was poisonous to a certain extent, so it couldn't be eaten directly. It had to be processed first. Therefore, the dragon meat was preserved for now. There was also a long and thick dragon penis. This was good stuff. Perhaps North Town could produce dragon dick wine in the future. Next were the dragon's tendons, teeth, and bones. Su Len planned to use the dragon tendon to make a whip for Phyllis, the teeth to make a scimitar or dagger, and the bones to make a dragon bone staff. Of course, there were plenty of dragon bones in a dragon's body. However, not all of them were suitable for crafting magic staffs. These dragon bones were excellent materials for crafting legendary battleships. When the time came for crafting a legendary dragon bone battleship, it would be a surefire way to fight naval battles. Although a part of the dragon's wings would be used to make dragon robes, the rest would be enough to make sails. Since the dragon skeleton was used to make the dragon bones of a warship, the sails would be a good choice. All of the dragon's blood was extracted. The dragon's blood filled 7 large water tanks. Hathaway used a special crystal ball to preserve the dragon's blood. After all the parts of the dragon's body were cut up, only a complete dragon's head was left. Su Len didn't plan to make the dragon's head into a magical tool. It was better to keep it as a collector's item. Su Len planned to hang the dragon's head on a warship or the city walls of North Town. Of course, he also took out the dragon crystal from the dragon's head. The dragon crystal had many uses. It could be used as a high-tier legendary soul crystal. It could also be used as a magical tool. In the hands of a lich, it could even be used to summon an undead dragon. Su Len planned to make the dragon crystal into a legendary construct. After spending an entire day, the white dragon was finally completely dissected. Hathaway didn't stay any longer. After dissecting the dragon, she took some of the materials back to Northwind Tower. Su Len still had matters to attend to in Vadia City. Today, the nobles of several cities around Vadia City hurried over. As soon as they saw Su Len, they prepared gifts without saying a word. These nobles were very smart. They knew that Su Len wanted to rebuild Vadia city, so they sent all kinds of materials. After delivering the materials, they requested an audience with Su Len. Su Len wasn't happy with these nobles, but he still received them on account of the materials. "Your Majesty." 6 nobles bowed respectfully. The leader of the nobles was called Westernado. He was the dungeon lord of the nearby Chili Winterfell. Chili Winterfell was the most powerful city in the surrounding area. It had a resident population of 70,000. Westernado, dungeon lord of Chili Winterfell. "I remember that your city is only 50 kilometers away from Vadia city." Su Len stood up from his seat and said to Westernado. Westernado's expression changed. He lowered his head and said, "Yes, Your Majesty. You took half a month to travel 50 kilometers. I rushed over from San Filto City, but you weren't there. Can you tell me the reason?" Su Len said without emotion. I'm very sorry, Your Majesty." Westernado broke out in cold sweat. Vadia city fell too quickly. I immediately mobilized my men after receiving their request for reinforcements, but by the time I gathered my men and prepared to depart, the city had already fallen. That's why you didn't go to the rescue? Su Len looked coldly at the middle-aged noble. To be fair, the Western Australian did not look like those nobles in the south who were fat, greedy, and stingy like pigs. On the contrary, he should have been very handsome when he was young. The hardships in the north had given him an iron-blooded temperament. Coupled with his noble temperament, he looked somewhat valiant. However, his behavior was more like a veteran. "Your Majesty, shut up." Su Luen forcefully interrupted their next words. A powerful aura erupted from his body in an instant, and the faces of the nobles on the other side instantly turned pale. The powerful aura made it hard for them to breathe. At this moment, they felt as if they were about to die. Su Len noticed that the nobles were about to collapse, so he retracted his aura. The nobles gasped for air with their mouths wide open like fish out of water. "I was going to strip all of you of your titles," Su Len said in a low voice, and the nobles froze. "However, it's too much to ask you to face the dragon. Since you don't dare to face the dragon, you can at least provide resources and manpower. Now that Vadia city is undergoing reconstruction, each of you must provide 5,000 men to replenish the city, as well as resources." Su Len didn't plan to kill the nobles, but he wouldn't let them off easy either. He wanted to take advantage of the situation to extort them. He wanted resources and other things, and at the same time, he wanted to use this opportunity to reform the city. Rebuilding Vadia city would cost almost nothing, and the surrounding nobles would have to accept the reform. This was killing several birds with one stone for Su Len. After hearing Sullen's words, the nobles nodded in agreement, as if they had been pardoned. Su Len waved his hand expressionlessly, and told them to go back and prepare. Su Len was very experienced in rebuilding a city, and there was a large group of experienced craftsmen in northern town city. After giving orders, Su Len found a quiet room and went into seclusion. He hadn't used the system reward he received from killing the white dragon, and Su Len wanted to use it now. Although he received a lot of EXP from killing the white dragon, he didn't level up. However, he still received one legendary attribute point. Opening the system panel, Su Len chose to use it on Advanced Iron Will. A golden light shone, and Sullen's eyes turned golden. His Advanced Iron Will had become Legendary Iron Will. Su Len felt his mind become very clear at this moment. After upgrading Iron Will, Su Len opened his inventory and checked the system reward. Apart from the 3 diamond treasure chests, Su Len also received a dragon bone. This dragon bone was different from the one he received from cutting up the white dragon's body. The dragon bone in front of him was only a section of the spine. Su Len used appraisal on the dragon bone. With a flash of light, the dragon bone's attributes appeared before his eyes. Dragon bone, the most essential part of the dragon's body. It contains the dragon's power. Wearing it will grant the wearer dragon's aura, red dragon in its prime. The wearer's strength will increase by 5, up to 50. At the same time, it can be used as a supplementary material to upgrade weapons. Sullen's eyes lit up. This dragon bone could be used as a weapon upgrade material. In addition to the materials he received last time, he was one step closer to upgrading the Storm Battle Halberd. He planned to upgrade the Storm Battle Halberd to a divine artifact. After putting away the dragon bone, Su Len took out the 3 diamond treasure chests and prepared to open them. A gorgeous light flashed, and Su Luen heard the system prompt sound in his ears. Congratulations, host. You have opened the diamond treasure chest. You have obtained the item Navy Camp Blueprint. Congratulations, host. You have opened the diamond treasure chest. You have obtained the item Moonlight Dew. Congratulations, host. You have opened the diamond treasure chest. You have obtained the item Ecosystem Information Technology. The Navy Camp Blueprint? Sullen's eyes lit up. This thing came at the right time. He was developing the trade route and Deepwater City. He was lacking a navy. Originally, he relied on Barbassa for training. Now that he had the Navy Camp Blueprint, he could train a navy on a large scale. Of course, this navy could also be considered a navy. With a stable source of soldiers, Su Len would soon have a powerful navy. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.